Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Awakening of the Whole People. This treatment has 100 million fierce points. Chapter 31. Although Bai Yu's process of recruiting Chu Jie has a certain degree of deceit, but the description of the characteristics of each team member is not wrong at all. This team is really as strong as Bai Yu described. Chu Jie naturally refused Bai Yu's invitation to live together at first. However, after Bai Yu analyzed the pros and cons of Chu Jie in terms of leveling efficiency, team members' tacit understanding, etc., Chu Jie also agreed with Bai Yu's idea. Indeed, if everyone went home separately, it would take a lot of time to gather every day. Their team is not like other teams, they need to rest, and they can go out to level up almost every day. If they save the gathering time, their level will definitely take a leap in 2 months. So, after parting, Chu Jie went back to pack his things, ready to move into the villa rented by Bai Yu and the others. How about it? As soon as Chu Jie left, Yan Yan and others who were waiting on the side jumped out impatiently and asked about the result. Done. Bai Yu smiled triumphantly. Then, the 4 of them left the school to prepare the things needed for leveling. Leveling, of course, is to kill beasts, and they also need a suit of equipment to arm themselves. The school equips each student with weapons, but they are all primary weapons that are not lethal. After all, it is in the school. It is enough to have weapons for everyone to practice. If the pursuit of lethality is too much, in case the students compete if it hurts someone, it's hard to do. However, the beasts they are facing at this stage are not very advanced, and naturally they don't need to buy 2 good weapons, as long as they are enough. In the end, after some selection, Yan Yan and Luo Shui each bought a crystal ball that amplifies the power of fire-type and ice-type awakening skills. Xiao Xiao picked up a huge shield. Her position in the team is more inclined to tanks, so at present, she still focuses on improving her defense. As for the attack, it depends on the situation. Even with bare hands, Xiao Xiao's lethality is definitely not weak. In the end, Bai Yu picked up a dagger. He doesn't need to charge, but needs weapons to protect himself. Originally, he didn't intend to buy it himself. After all, no matter how cheap a weapon is, it still needs money. Besides, his own fighting power is actually not weak. However, unable to withstand Yan Yan's persuasion, he finally bought a dagger for self-defense. As for Chu Jie, he has his own dagger, and judging by the material, it's not the unsharp one issued by the school. Now that they're here for shopping, how can this team of 3 girls be satisfied with just buying weapons? Thus, Bai Yu fully experienced how desperate it is to go shopping with a girl. In the end, Bai Yu became a coolie carrying goods. Xiao Xiao is okay, limited by family conditions. When buying things, she only buys useful ones, while Yan Yan and Luo Shui have no taboos. Whatever they see, as long as they like it, good-looking ones, regardless of whether they are useful or not, buy them first. Besides, for 2 hours, Bai Yu felt like he had experienced a disaster. When he came out of the shopping mall, his body was covered with bags. On the other side, Xiao Xiao was not much better. Only Yan Yan and Luo Shui were holding a cup of ice cream, and Luo Shui was holding one for Xiao Xiao, feeding Xiao Xiao a mouthful from time to time. But Bai Yu didn't have such a good treatment. He could only sigh and complain that as the captain, he could only be a coolie. When they returned to the villa, Chu Jie was already waiting outside with a suitcase, but was stopped by the guard, who couldn't even enter the community. The villa that Bai Yu and the others rented was naturally not a high-end villa, but a single-family villa in the community. Under the leadership of Bai Yu and the others, Chu Jie also found the room reserved for him. The final exams are over, and they don't need to go back to school to check their grades. They can check them on the school website in a few days. Therefore, the rest of the time is all their own. No delay in leveling. The next morning, the 5 of them gathered in the living room, ready to go. Fengming Mountain is a low-level leveling area not far from the city, and the level of beasts is between 10 and 30. Due to the special terrain, the beasts of different levels are distinguished, which is a good place for leveling. Besides Bai Yu and his team, there should be quite a few other people who would choose this place. Bai Yu and the others moved forward all the way, heading towards Fengming Mountain. Yan Yan originally planned to ride her beloved small motorcycle, but a motorcycle could not seat 5 people, and there was a possibility of losing it, so she finally gave up. In the end, they chose to take a car to the vicinity of Fengming Mountain and then walk up. This was the first time they entered the leveling area, and they seemed a little cautious. Chu Zhe escaped into the shadows and explored the way ahead, while the other four formed a battle formation and slowly moved forward. Although they haven't entered the cave yet, the team has already entered the fighting state. However, they were a little too nervous, and they didn't encounter a single beast until they reached the halfway up the mountain. It seemed that the caves in the leveling area were where the beasts stayed. Although Blue Star has been transformed by the system, the cave in Fengming Mountain already existed 100 years ago, and the system has not transformed Blue Star's landform, so it should be whatever it is. At the entrance of the cave, there is no indication of what level of beasts are in which cave, and everything can only be explored by yourself. Since you don't know anything, you have nothing to choose. Bai Yu's team randomly picked a cave that was closest to the place where they went up the mountain and got into it. The entrance of the cave is not too big, at most it can accommodate 3 people walking side by side. But after entering the cave, the space became larger, and not far from the entrance, an old scalper was lying leisurely on the ground, wagging its tail and whipping the mosquitoes on its body. Bull, what level of monster? Bai Yu doesn't know the level of the beast. In fact, the entire squad was unclear. Although there are relevant information on the internet, but there are so many types of beasts, it is impossible to memorize them all. At this time, the roll of money is reflected. I saw Yan Yan took 2 steps forward, raised her hand to show the watch in her hand, swiped at the old scalper, and a virtual screen popped out above the watch. Beast type, cattle, grade, 13, features, vigorous. The information on the beast is very concise, but it also makes everyone understand what level of beast they need to face. Level 13, still within the acceptable range. How? Try. Since it is an acceptable level, it is natural to practice here first. There are so many caves on the mountain, if you have to start with a 10th level, I am afraid that one day may not be enough. I go. For this kind of thing, Chu Zhe is naturally on the move, and his means of escape are more convenient than others. After Chu Zhe finished speaking, he escaped into the shadows, and then appeared from behind the old scalper, and stabbed the old scalper's ass with a dagger gleaming in his hand. A cold light flashed, blood splattered, the old scalper let out a painful growl, his leisurely posture disappeared, replaced by a pair of blood-red eyes, and he turned to look at Chu Zhe aside. Chu Zhe was taken aback by the old scalper's reaction. He actually forgot to use Shadow Dun, but ran back towards the team with his legs. This is the disadvantage of lack of combat experience. Although they have worked hard to practice their awakening skills in school, they will still follow their instincts in critical moments. In other words, they haven't practiced enough, they haven't turned their skills into instincts yet. When Chu Zhe fled in embarrassment, behind him, the old yellow bull's eyes were red, his nose was blowing white air, and his front hooves kept pawing the ground. Then, he lowered his head and bumped towards Chu Zhe's back. If Chu Zhe used his shadow, the exhausted scalper wouldn't even be able to touch a single hair of Chu Zhe. But now Chu Zhe was so nervous that he forgot to use his skills. If he relied on his legs, it would be impossible to outrun the old scalper. Amidst the sound of running that made the ground tremble, the old scalper chased after Chu Zhe at a speed more than twice as fast as Chu Zhe. A pair of sharp ox horns headed towards the embarrassing Hao Chouza. If this time is solid, Chu Zhe will be miserable. Boom. At the critical moment, someone stood up. Xiao Xiao's burly body jumped out and landed behind Chu Zhe, with both hands outstretched, the muscles on her arms stretched out, and she directly grabbed a pair of horns of the old scalper. One man and one bull began to wrestle. Although Xiao Xiao is a girl, her strength is really terrifying. Even the old scalper in the charging state can only push Xiao Xiao to the ground and slide 2 meters away before stopping. Ah! After Xiao Xiao gained a firm footing, she shouted softly, and with a sudden force of both arms, she knocked the old scalper to the ground. At this time, Yan Yan and Luo Shui who were on the side also reacted and kept up with their output. The fireball and ice thorns fell on the old scalper, exploding bloody flowers. Under Xiao Xiao's control, the old scalper was powerless to resist, so he could only be beaten passively, and was beaten by Yan Yan and Luo Shui. Not long after, the old scalper ran out of vitality, struggled twice and stopped moving. At the same time, several people received a system prompt to gain experience. Once the experience points are obtained, it proves that the old scalper is dead and can't die anymore. Only then did Xiao Xiao let go of her hand and stood up. Chu Jie also recovered from the shock at this time, walked to Xiao Xiao's side, and reached out to touch the muscles on her arm. It feels so safe. Chu Jie sighed with emotion from the bottom of his heart. Hate it. Xiao Xiao is a girl after all, how could she bear being touched by a boy like this? Immediately, she said shyly that she hated it, and then waved her hand. Boom! A slap like a cattail fan slapped Chu Jie's thin body, and Chu Jie's fan flew out immediately, hitting the stone wall heavily. Under Xiao Xiao's embarrassment, she completely forgot that she was still in a state of increasing strength. This slap, not to mention Chu Jie, even an old scalper couldn't stand it. Chu Jie slid against the stone wall and sat on the ground, spit out a mouthful of old blood, and looked at Xiao Xiao in horror. This slap almost killed him. Bai Yu was also taken aback. He didn't expect to meet the first yellow beast. The team killed it without injury, but Chu Jie was injured by his own hands. Why do you say you're fine to provoke her? Bai Yu suppressed a smile, said in his mouth, but his hands were not vague, and he directly gave Chu Jie a wonderful hand to rejuvenate. I praised her for coming. After Chu Jie recovered, his complexion was extremely ugly. He subconsciously shrunk his body, and hid behind Bai Yu, wanting to stay away from Xiao Xiao. After a little episode, the team started the official leveling journey. They have seen the level and strength of the old scalper, and after evaluation, they agreed that it is better not to start a large-scale battle. With one head and two ends, it will definitely be no problem to fight, but if there are too many, accidents will definitely happen. Xiao Xiao is not a god either. She can stand up to two old scalpers at most, but the others can't stand up to one of them. They are not greedy for meritorious deeds, they just lure out and kill at both ends. As a level 13 beast, the old scalper has a lot of experience. On the first day, the team members collectively rose to level 9. The next day, the 5 of them came to the cave again. Compared to finding a new one, this cave that has already been killed is easier to fight. The old scalper's fighting method is very simple, that is, a charge, using its sharp horns as weapons. It's a pity that strength is the strong point of the old scalper, but they met Xiao Xiao, a strange woman, who is less than 10th level, and her strength is stronger than that of the 13th level old scalper. Instead, their charge became an opportunity to lure them out of the group. And their instinctive way of attacking with kicks is even more difficult to hit people. The only person in the team who would appear behind the old scalper was Chu Jie. After experiencing the first accident, Chu Jie also learned well. Just hid in the shadow, and immediately retracted after the attack was completed. He even just stretched out one hand, stabbed him and ran away. From level 9 to level 10, this is a qualitative change. At level 10, you can have the first level, the yellow level. The improved attributes after the upgrade are not comparable to ordinary upgrades. Therefore, it took Bai Yu's team 3 days to upgrade from level 9 to level 10. 3 days is not a long time, and even for some teams, it is a time to recuperate. But Bai Yu and the others didn't need to recuperate at all, so on the 4th day of the summer vacation, they collectively rose to level 10, and also had the second awakening skill. The second awakening skill is naturally stronger than the first awakening skill. However, apart from the fixed multiplier enhancement skills of the strength system, most of the other skills can be improved by increasing proficiency. The strength system is to increase the multiplied strength by increasing the base of one's own strength. The 5 people who have the second awakening skill are naturally very excited. Can't wait to try out the power of the new skills. And the old scalper has become the best test product. Bai Yu's second awakening skill is not a healing skill, but an auxiliary skill. It cannot heal injuries, but it can restore a small amount of spiritual power, and it has a certain degree of aggressiveness. Calmness buff state can dispel all negative states on the target and restore a small amount of spiritual power to the target. Calmness debuff state can dispel all buff states on the target, and increase the spiritual power consumption of the target when performing skills. The 2 states of Bai Yu's second skill can obviously be used against his own people and against the enemy. Bai Yu wanted to experiment with his skills, but unfortunately he had no target for now. The old scalper doesn't have the kind of skills to give the opponent status. Others also possessed the second awakening skill, and they were familiar with it in their hearts at this time. Yan Yan, what is your second awakening skill? Bai Yu asked Yan Yan. It's called Explosive Bomb. It's almost an advanced version of Fireball Burst, but its power has been doubled before. As she spoke, Yan Yan raised one hand, and a huge fireball formed in her hand. From the appearance, in addition to being larger than ordinary fireballs, the color is also deeper. At a glance, you can feel the destructive power contained in it. And the easiest and most direct way to test the power of skills is to attack. Xiao Xiao, please. Yan Yan gave Xiao Xiao a look. Xiao Xiao immediately understood, picked up a stone from the ground, and threw it at an old scalper in the distance. This is their way of attracting monsters. Wild beasts are aggressive, but it also depends on the distance. If you are too far away, they will not talk to you. But if you try to die, they will rush over. Therefore, Bai Yu and the others used this kind of brat to kill to attract monsters. The old scalper who was smashed was in pain, and immediately became unhappy, dared to hit it. Even if there are thousands of mountains and rivers, you can't let it go. The enraged old scalper immediately had bloodshot eyes, snorted air from his nostrils, and rushed towards this side pawing the ground. But the other old scalpers glanced at them lightly, and then stopped talking to them. They were too far away and didn't hit them, so they didn't bother to talk to them. The old scalpers who rushed over entered Bai Yu's old routine again. Xiao Xiao stepped forward to wrestle with the old scalper, while Yan Yan was planning to attack. The blasting bomb the size of a washbasin roared towards the old scalper. Boom! There was a violent explosion, and the old scalper was thrown far away. Even Xiao Xiao, who was standing aside, was slightly affected. This is reality, not online, and there is no teammate damage immunity. Although Yan Yan had already avoided Xiao Xiao's direction, the explosive flame bomb was indeed a bit powerful, and the shock wave after the explosion still made Xiao Xiao stagger a few steps sideways. It's just that Xiao Xiao, who has endured the aftermath of the explosion, is like this, so the old scalper who was hit head-on can be imagined. The old scalper that was blown away was lying on the ground at this time, dying. There was a wound on the stomach that was bigger than a washbasin, and it was bleeding continuously, and there were burnt marks around the wound. So strong. Bai Yu gave a thumbs up. The specific damage of the explosive bomb is not clear, but by comparing it with the damage of the fireball, if it hits the target drone, it should have a value close to 300. Of course strong. However, the consumption is not small. Yan Yan smiled triumphantly, but there was a trace of fatigue in the smile. She has just been promoted to level 10, and although the total amount of spiritual power has increased a lot, the consumption of spiritual power by the second awakening technique is also not small. She made a rough estimate, and with her current total spiritual power, firing 4 explosive bombs in a row is already the limit. Yan Yan already knows, but what about Chu Zhe? As the assassin in the team, what is his second awakening skill? Will it be a skill with a lethal bonus? If so, then Chu Ji's combat effectiveness will be greatly improved. The corner of Chu Ji's mouth raised, and he gave Bai Yu a thumbs up, which meant that his second awakening skill was also very strong. Sister Xiao Xiao, please trouble me. Chu Zhe also said something to Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao repeated the operation just now, and another old scalper rushed over with red eyes. But just when Xiao Xiao was about to go forward to grab the horns, she saw Chu Ji's figure suddenly appearing from the old scalper's shadow. Awakening skill. Shadow stepping. After Chu Zhe appeared, he did not attack, but stood still. But the old scalper who was sprinting at high speed stopped suddenly as if he had hit a wall. Xiao Xiao calculated the advance amount for grabbing the bull's horns. Chu Ji's step made the old scalper stop about 1 meter in front of Xiao Xiao. Chu Ji's skill is a bit weird. Bai Yu and the others didn't understand what was going on for a while. My second awakening skill, Step Shadow. This is a control technique with a very powerful effect. As long as the person or beast is not higher than my own level 10, as long as I step on the shadow, I can't move. But there is also a disadvantage, that is, I can't move myself. If I move, the effect of stepping on the shadow will disappear. To be honest, Chu Ji's skill is very powerful, but its practicality is too poor. If it's one-on-one, what's the use even if you control the opponent? They can't attack, they can only stare wide-eyed. But in the team, it will be different. One person controls the opponent, and the others can take it away with a single fire attack. And Chu Ji's control technique is so weird, the opponent may have been tricked without knowing it, there is no trace to find, and it is impossible to guard against. This is a magical skill. After realizing this, Bai Yu's eyes lit up. For opponents, this move is impossible to defend against, but for teammates, it is completely possible to notify in advance and then launch a surprise attack instantly. After learning about Chu Ji's second awakening skill, Bai Yu turned his attention to Luo Shui again. The ice type is a combat type that favors control. Luo Shui's first awakening skill is an offensive skill. According to Old Wu's deduction, her second awakening skill should be a control type. Luo Shui didn't say a word, but with a shake of her hand, a cold blue and white chain stretched out from her hand, and shot straight at the old scalper whose shadow was trampled by Chu Ji. After the chain wrapped the old scalper around, Chu Ji also cooperated to remove Ta Ying, and the old scalper regained the ability to move. However, just when it was about to make a move, it found that it was bound by a chain. In desperation, the old scalper charged hard, and the powerful force lifted Luo Shui, who was on the other end of the chain, directly off the ground. Ah! Luo Shui screamed in panic. With sharp eyes and quick hands, Bai Yu flew out, came behind Luo Shui, reached out her hand, pulled Luo Shui back, and hugged her into her arms. At the same time, the other hand grabbed the chain in Luo Shui's hand, and pulled back the old scalper who rushed out. At this time, I have to say that when it comes to taking advantage, Bai Yu will not be behind at all. When Chu Ji was being chased, he stood there watching and asked Xiao Xiao to rescue him. Now Luo Shui is in danger, he reacts faster than anyone else. But Bai Yu's actions made everyone stunned. What did he do? Let's not talk about the beauty in my arms. He just grabbed the old scalper who was rushing up with one hand. It's not such a surprising thing to hold a level 13 old scalper with one hand. Anyone with a power system above level 10 can do it. However, Bai Yu is not a strength system, he is just a healer. A healer with indescribably scum in combat power, who wouldn't dare to come to the leveling area without the protection of his teammates, is now holding a beautiful girl with one hand, and pulling a crazy old scalper with the other. There seems to be something wrong with this style of painting. Ah, so what, if I say now, what you see are hallucinations, is there still time? Bai Yu realized that the atmosphere was wrong and smiled awkwardly. What do you say? Yan Yan stepped forward, opened Bai Yu's hands that were still hugging Luo Shui's slender waist, and grabbed his collar. Tell me honestly, why do you have such a strong power? Everyone thought that Bai Yu was just a helpless healer, but they didn't expect that he was actually hiding something. Fortunately, we are all teammates. If the enemy thinks that Bai Yu is a scumbag and sneaks up to attack him, then it will be fun. Ah, ha, extraordinary talent. Extraordinary talent. Bai Yu made a ha, intending to fool him. But is Yan Yan so easy to fool? Say it or not, because of Yan Yan's fiery temper, she didn't go around with Yu, she just jumped up, clamped Bai Yu's head under her armpit with one hand, pressed Bai Yu's head with the other hand, and slammed it. Under the pain, Bai Yu struggled for a while, but his face touched a very soft place, with a special fragrance. Bai Yu suddenly felt heaven, so he struggled harder. Don't say yes, see if I don't strangle you. After finishing speaking, Yan Yan stretched her arms and strangled even harder, but she didn't notice anything wrong at all. Bai Yu was in pain and joy, and decided to swear to the death. Yan Yan. Seeing this, Luo Shui reached out and pulled Yan Yan's sleeve, her face turned red, and she pointed at Bai Yu. Yan Yan looked down, and Bai Yu's face was also flushed, and she didn't know if it was from holding back, or for some other reason. Seeing that Bai Yu seemed to be suffering, Yan Yan let go of him, but her eyes stared fiercely at Bai Yu. I told you about our skills, and you know the effect, but you still hide it from us. Do you think we are teammates? Yan Yan doesn't intend to let it go. And after Bai Yu was freed from Yan Yan's arms, he suddenly felt a sense of loss. Really, I won't lie to you, I don't know why, I'm born with great strength, you've heard what old Wu said, I used to fight a lot, maybe it's because of this. Naturally, Bai Yu couldn't say that he has dual talents, so it would be great if he said this. Real, liar is a puppy. Wow. At this moment, Yan Yan was completely speechless. Even if Bai Yu made it clear and didn't say anything, she couldn't help it, she couldn't put a knife on Bai Yu's neck. However, she also understands that maybe Bai Yu has some difficulties, otherwise, why would he rather be a puppy than say anything? After letting Bai Yu go, everyone looked at Xiao Xiao again. According to normal circumstances, Xiao Xiao's second awakening skill should be a 5-fold increase in strength. But Xiao Xiao herself is not in a normal situation, even her talent skills are different from others, so will her awakening skills also be different? My second awakening skill is Tiger Power. Not specified. Xiao Xiao said shyly. She didn't know whether her skill was strong or not. You'll know if you try it. For this problem, the solution is simple. The old ox that was chained by the ice chain was still struggling there, it was the best experiment target. When Bai Yu said these words, he let go of the chain in his hand, and Luo Shui also withdrew his spiritual power in a timely manner. The chain shattered into ice sand all over the sky, floating in the air. The old scalper who has regained his freedom does not seem to know what fear is. The group of people in front of him had already abused it in turn, and it still had red eyes, pointed its horns at this side, and rushed over again. Awakening skill. Tiger Power. Accompanied by a clear cry like an oriole, a huge fist hit the old scalper. The power of this calculation is enormous, and the sound of breaking the wind caused by the high-speed swing of the fist is like a deep roar of a tiger. Boom! The fist hit firmly between the two horns of the old scalper. The old scalper's forward body suddenly stopped, and his entire neck felt shortened. And when Xiao Xiao withdrew his fist, the old scalper fell to the ground with a bang, and was killed by Xiao Xiao's punch. Bai Yu covered his face. Xiao Xiao was the one they found for the current platoon tank, and as a result, this attack power can be ranked first in the team. Fortunately, Xiao Xiao's physical fitness is also strong enough, and she can also play a cameo role as a tank while attacking, without any pressure to fight monsters. After everyone's skills were demonstrated, the boring leveling began again, interspersed with the familiar use of new skills, and old scalpers fell at their feet. After 10 days in a row, everyone in the team has reached level 13, the same level as the old scalper. After the same level, the experience points gained from killing wild beasts will decrease, so Bai Yu and the others plan to change places. Besides, killing old scalpers every day makes them feel like vomiting. Now they were no longer as cautious as before, especially after knowing that Bai Yu didn't need their care. They fought more aggressively, and even rushed directly into the herd of scalpers to kill them. Luo Shui threw out the ice lock directly, tied up 5 or 6 old scalpers, and handed the other end to Xiao Xiao. Under Xiao Xiao's powerful strength, she pulled hard and directly tore down a large area. And before the old scalper stood up again, the flames and icicles sprinkled over, bringing up patches of blood mist. Chu Zhe wasn't idle either. Relying on Yu Ying's high mobility, he slashed eastward and stabbed westward, killing with exhilaration. Bai Yu didn't want to be a spectator either, so he took out the dagger he bought and joined the battle. With a strong backing, he could kill the old scalper effortlessly. The team's combat effectiveness has been fully utilized, and the upgrade speed will naturally not be slowed down. After being curious about Bai Yu's powerful power at first, after a long time, everyone has become accustomed to it. Knowing that Bai Yu had a secret, they didn't keep asking. Anyway, the stronger the team members, the greater the benefits. Now, they finally wanted to bid farewell to the cave that they had stayed in for nearly half a month, and went to find a new leveling point. It's a pity that in the past half a month, they haven't encountered a leader-level old scalper. Originally, he planned to kill the leader-level old scalper to see if he could get an evolution bead and evolve his skills. Now it seems hopeless. The new leveling area needs to be redetected. This glorious and arduous task naturally falls on Chu Zhe, who gave him the stealth ability without anyone noticing it. The 4 of Bai Yu were sitting on a big rock on the mountainside, overlooking the city not far away. But the city during the day is nothing to see, except for the smoky dust floating above the city, there is nothing. After a while, Chu Ji's figure emerged from the shadows. How about it? Seeing Chu Zhe returning, Bai Yu asked. It's okay, it looks like there are rats inside. I remember I read it on the internet. The level of rats is only 14, but the danger level is quite high. After all, there are a lot of them. Chu Zhe said. He wasn't Yan Yan, nor Luo Shui, and he didn't have a watch on his body that could scan the information of beasts, so he could only guess based on experience. And his experience in killing wild monsters was only accumulated in the past few days. Speaking of the old scalper, he knows it very well. But he didn't know about other beasts. A mouse. It's okay. Yan Yan's fire-type group killing ability is quite good, especially her burst effect. It seems that Yan Yan is going to be the center of this leveling area. Bai Yu thought for a while, looked at Yan Yan and said. Yan Yan puffed out her chest proudly, as if wrapping herself around me. After making a decision, the 5 of them walked into the cave. According to Chu Ji's description, there are no mice near the entrance of the cave, so they don't need to be too cautious. After entering the cave, with the help of the dim light, one can vaguely see a lot of wild beasts with a size of half a meter in the depths of the cave, and there are a lot of them. Wait a moment. Yan Yan, who was always in a hurry, reached out her hand this time to stop Xiao Xiao, who was about to go forward to fight. Perhaps, it is precisely because Bai Yu said that in this leveling area, Yan Yan is the main force, and she should be the center of the fight, so she is particularly responsible. Standing 10 meters away, Yan Yan turned on the scanning function of the beast with her watch. Beast type, toothless duck. Level, 15. Ability, confused black and white. The scanned results surprised everyone. This thing that looks exactly like a mouse is not a mouse, but a duck. By the way, is there such a duck? Bai Yu said that he has little experience and has never seen a duck like this. I haven't seen it either. Others shook their heads too. There seems to be such a duck. Chu Zhe, who blamed himself a little because of the wrong information, took out his mobile phone and searched for toothless duck. There is information about this kind of duck on the internet. According to experts, it is a duck that looks exactly like a mouse. The difference lies in whether it has teeth. As the saying goes, a rat with teeth is a mouse, but a duck without teeth. Chu Zhe said, toothless as a duck. No wonder it's called toothless duck. Now everyone understands. Level 15 is still within everyone's acceptance range. It's just that this feature makes people a little unclear. Confused black and white. What's the meaning? They soon figured out what it meant, though. Because this scanned toothless duck has already launched an attack. Yan Yan, who was standing at the forefront, felt her world spinning for a while, and she was about to fall to the ground as soon as her legs gave way. Fortunately, when Bai Yu was looking at the scanned data, he was standing beside Yan Yan, and he quickly reached out to support her. But as soon as he made contact, Bai Yu knew what the problem was. Yan Yan was attacked. As a healer, Bai Yu has a passive after having the awakening skill. That is, you can check the status of others. At this time, Yan Yan's eyes were pitch black, and she couldn't tell the difference between front, back, left, and right, and even upside down. That's why she couldn't stand steadily. Because when she was moving, she found that her body did not follow her consciousness at all. This state is called chaos. The chaotic state is complicated to explain, and it is not simply reversed from front to back. The reason why chaos is called chaos is because its effects have no rules to follow. In this state, it is even possible to attack teammates. Fortunately, Bai and his team met this time. If it was another team, they might be defeated here. Perhaps, many teams have already been wiped out here. There are many leveling accidents every year, and the existence of this cave is not a day or two. If you want to deal with such a beast, it doesn't mean that there are healers in the team. The power of confusing black and white is too weird. Even if you know it in advance, you can't defend it, because this is an attack launched from the spiritual level, and it cannot be resisted by physical defense. You have to have the ability to get rid of this state. Coincidentally, Bai Yu's second awakening skill is to remove the negative state. Bai Yu looked around the cave, but found no bones. However, this did not relax him. Just because there are no bones doesn't mean there aren't teams killed here. Another possibility is that the bones have been gnawed off. While checking the environment, Bai Yu casually threw out a calming mind, which freed Yan Yan from the chaotic state. Yan Yan, who was out of the chaotic state, was panting heavily, and couldn't help being afraid for a while. The feeling just now was too terrifying, as if the whole world had abandoned her, and she couldn't even feel the existence of her body, because the body didn't listen to her command at all. Yan Yan, who woke up, didn't care about Bai Yu's hand still around her waist this time. She even reached out to hug Bai Yu's arm, afraid that if she let go, she would enter that state again. Bai Yu was a little surprised by Yan Yan's reaction, but it was cheap and not a fool. Especially when Yan Yan hugged his arm, a pair of plump bumps rubbed against his arm, it felt so wonderful. The happy time is always short. Before Bai Yu enjoyed it for a while, Yan Yan returned to normal and let go of Bai Yu's arm, which made Bai Yu feel a little lost. But Yan Yan suffered such a big loss, so she naturally refused to let it go, raised her hand and threw a fireball, filled with the maximum spiritual power that the fireball can withstand at the current stage, and threw it at the toothless duck. The sound of the fireball bursting sounded, and a brilliant spark exploded. The toothless duck was hit in the front and was blown to pieces. It is only level 15, but it has such a powerful skill, it must have flaws in itself. Apart from the mediocre physical attack power, the biggest flaw of the toothless duck is its ability to prevent low life. Therefore, Yan Yan's fireball directly blasted him to pieces. Although the toothless duck has a fragile body, its level is right there. At level 15, it has the experience points that level 15 should have, not less at all. After gaining a lot of experience, everyone is not so afraid of Toothless Duck's weird skills. Anyway, Bai Yu can solve it, so what are you afraid of? So, the team started hunting Toothless Ducks to upgrade. It has to be said that hunting Toothless Ducks is much more efficient than killing old scalpers. The old scalper has a thick skin, and it takes some effort to kill one. But the Toothless Duck's small body is still very easy to kill, especially after their mental attack has no effect on the team, it will be even more stress-free. However, the battle plan has slightly changed. The original plan was to fight around Yan Yan, after all, she is the main output. But now, it has become to fight around Bai Yu. Because without his removal of negative status, they couldn't move in this cave at all. With such an easy battle, the team members naturally shuttled back and forth among the Toothless Ducks with great joy. Every time they shuttled, they would take a life away. Bai Yu stayed in a safe position to ensure that he would not be affected by Toothless Duck's ability to confuse black and white. If it wasn't for this, he would have gone up to kill with a dagger. Anyway, the team knew that he was very powerful, so they didn't hide it. Life is full of surprises. When Bai Yu helped his teammates get rid of the negative status time and time again, he found that his mental strength was slowly increasing. The source of mental strength growth is his second talent transformation. For this reason, Bai Yu also opened his own panel specifically, and looked at the description of the conversion skill. The description of the skill is very clear. When the target is treated, it will transform part of the remaining power to strengthen itself. But what Bai Yu is using now is not a healing skill. Or, because I am a healing profession, all my skills are considered healing skills by default. That's why when the chaotic state is lifted, the remaining mental power is transformed into its own power. This is simply cheating. Is the treatment in the experimental area so good? Bai Yu was so excited that he almost jumped up. If this trend continues, as long as I can survive, one day I will become an invincible existence. While thinking, the team has already cleaned up a group of Toothless Ducks again. A lot of experience gained made them all have smiles on their faces that couldn't be concealed, even Luo Shui's little face was filled with a faint smile. It's a good thing we have Bai Yu, otherwise, facing this skill that is almost sloppy, let alone leveling up, it's a question of whether we can get out alive. Chu Zhe gave Bai Yu a flattery. Well, you are amazing. Yan Yan also praised Bai Yu appropriately. However, she may not know that it is already the highest honor for a man to count you as good. Thanks. Bai Yu laughed happily and nodded. While watching others beating people to life and death, sharing experience and transforming attributes at the same time, can't you be happy? It's also fortunate that the Toothless Duck is bound by the system and cannot get out of this cave. Otherwise, who can cure them? Although Bai Yu can dispel it, he has no resistance. If he is accidentally tricked, there is nothing he can do about it. Besides, there don't seem to be many skills that can remove negative states. As far as I know, the removal of the light system counts as 1, and the purification of the water system counts as 1. The others seem to be gone. Chu Zhe counted with his fingers. There seems to be one in the spiritual department, but I don't remember the name. Yan Yan added, that's only 3. Counting Bai Yu, there are only 4 skills that can remove chaos. Isn't this invincible? Chu Ji's expression was exaggerated. Invincibility is definitely not enough. Their skills must have disadvantages. For example, how much higher the level is, the effect is invalid, and the mental strength is higher than them. The effect may not be effective or the effect will be weakened. It is said that the three cobblers have surpassed Zhuge Liang. Although they don't know much, after some guessing, they guessed very well. Toothless Duck's ability to confuse black and white is the same as Chu Ji's stepping shadow. If it is more than 10 levels higher than its level, it will not take effect at all. Those that are no higher than 10 levels will be enhanced or weakened according to the level difference, and it is not 100% effective. People like Bai Yu who are lower than the Toothless Duck are basically guaranteed to hit. And another situation is that the mental power is higher than that of the Toothless Duck, and it will be weakened to varying degrees. Therefore, talking about being invincible is just a fantasy. After a short break, the team once again devoted themselves to the fiery upgrade activities. But when they were trying their best to raise their ranks, an important guest came to Lao Wu's house. During the summer vacation, Old Wu didn't go out to level up. For him, rank is not very important. At this moment, Old Wu was waiting for someone at home. Boom boom boom. There was a knock on the door, and a nostalgic smile appeared on Old Wu's calm face. Old Wu opened the door. A man with a strong figure and a straight back appeared at the door of Old Wu's house. Haha, old classmate, long time no see. As soon as he opened the door, the man gave Lao Wu a bear hug. Oh, take it easy, it's not that you don't know what's going on with you, you want to kill me. The smile on Old Wu's face turned into a wry smile under this hug. Haha, excited, excited. We haven't seen each other for several years, and today I finally have the opportunity to come and see you. Haha, I couldn't hold back. The man had a hearty laugh and was not restrained. He didn't need Lao Wu to say anything, he just walked into the room. Look at me, do you believe it yourself? Old Wu pouted. The man's name was Yin Tianyu, and he and Lao Wu were classmates in junior high school. After graduating from junior high school, the two were admitted to different high schools. But after awakening, the two returned to the same high school and became classmates again. However, after graduating from high school, the two separated again. Old Wu went to a normal university, but Yin Tianyu was admitted to the National Defense University. Because in high school, the relationship between the two has been good, and they often contacted each other during college. After graduation, Lao Wu became a teacher in No. 3 middle school, while Yin Tianyu developed in the army. Due to the special nature of the army, the connection between the two gradually decreased. Haha, between us brothers, why should we be so serious? By the way, I heard that you found a good seed. Take me to see it. This is Yin Tianyu's real purpose. After Lao Wu developed that Bai Yu might be a brand new treatment system, he couldn't help the excitement in his heart and posted a circle of friends. No amount of adversity can conceal the edge of genius. Just such a simple sentence sounds a little inspirational, but there is no clue. But Yin Tianyu didn't think so, he knew Lao Wu very well. This guy has a low-key personality, restrained, and calm, and he may not post a moment's once in 800 years. What is it that makes him feel that he can't enjoy having fun secretly by himself, so he wants to vent on a circle of friends? Then, it is probably the genius he said in his words. Old Wu Ji is not leveling up, and he doesn't like fighting. It is absolutely impossible for this genius to be talking about himself. It is most likely that he discovered an inconspicuous genius, and he didn't want to make too much noise, so he posted such a circle of friends. The more Yin Tianyu thought about it, the more he felt that his deduction made sense, so he left the work at hand and ran over to look for Old Wu. How can there be any good seedlings? You are talking nonsense. Old Wu's eyes twitched wildly, and he quickly denied it. Between our brothers, are you playing with me like this? As soon as you stick your ass, I know if you are going to shit or fart, are you lying to me? Yin Tianyu suddenly became unhappy. HMPH, I don't know you yet. There are good seedlings, but if I don't give them to you, what can you do to me? You're a little guy, you run around pulling your special forces, what if you die? After being seen through, Lao Wu didn't hide anymore, but he still didn't intend to let Yin Tianyu see Bai Yu. The reason why Yin Tianyu has less and less contact with Lao Wu is because he is in a special unit, and it is extremely dangerous to go on missions every 3 days. You think too much. I have already retired, and now I am an instructor at the National Defense University. I came here not to drag him into the special forces, but to see if he is really a genius, then on behalf of the National Defense University, I can admit him in advance. Wouldn't he still have to go to college after finishing high school? Isn't the National Defense University not good enough? Is the National Defense University not good enough? I'm afraid that in the whole of China, no one dares to say this. It is true that the National Defense University's admission score is not the highest, but the admission requirements are very high. In addition to reaching the score line, there are also requirements for physical condition and awakening ability. The most important thing is the level of political review. No matter how high your score is, as long as someone in your family has committed a crime, you will not be able to enter the National Defense University. Hearing this, Lao Wu's focus seemed to have changed. You backed down. Why did you back down? It's impossible for the dragon guards you were in to retreat casually. Could it be something's wrong with your body? Although the army has confidentiality regulations, some things that are not considered secrets, Yin Tianyu still told Lao Wu. Old Wu looked at Yin Tianyu with concern. Although he doesn't take the other party seriously on the lips, but in his heart, he still cares very much. Haha, how could it be? I am the strongest in the strength department, how can my body be so prone to problems? Yin Tianyu yelled haha, however, anyone could see the loss in his eyes. He doesn't want to back down. But he can't help himself. Impossible, sit down and let me see. Old Wu pulled Yin Tianyu to sit down on the sofa, and groped for a while with his hands. Unfortunately, nothing was touched. He is not a healer, and he can't tell whether Yin Tianyu has hidden wounds or not. Honestly, what's going on? Old Wu looked at Yin Tianyu seriously. He still remembered how high-spirited Yin Tianyu was when he joined Longwei. If he hadn't had some unavoidable difficulties, how could he have quit Longwei and become an instructor in the National Defense University? Ah, it's just a small problem, it's nothing serious. Yin Tianyu tried his best to keep his expression relaxed. However, based on what Old Wu knew about him, even the slightest change in expression could not escape Old Wu's eyes. Well, I see. Seeing that Yin Tianyu refused to speak, Lao Wu didn't ask any more questions. He just nodded calmly, then took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. In Fengming Mountain, the team did not slack in leveling for a moment, went out to rest for a while when their spiritual power was exhausted, and immediately returned to leveling after recovering. No wonder they are so motivated. Even now that their level has reached level 15, which is equal to that of the toothless duck, they still refuse to change places. The leveling efficiency here is really too high. Under the effect of Baiyu's composure, the toothless duck almost became the meat on the chopping board, letting them slaughter it. Moreover, the number of toothless ducks is huge, and the daily system refreshes are almost endless, so that the speed at which they can gain experience is so fast. According to the normal leveling speed, it will take nearly a month to reach level 14, which is considered very fast, and it has to be a strong attacking team like Lin Zhong and the others, who can kill beasts super fast. But now, Baiyu and the others have raised the level to level 15, which is simply abnormal. At this time, after the round of fighting, the team was eating the prepared food outside the cave, recovering the exhausted physical and spiritual energy. Baiyu's cell phone rang suddenly. Baiyu took out his phone and saw that it was Old Wu. Although I don't know why Lao Wu called him at this time, he answered it very quickly. Mr. Wu, what's the matter? There is no doubt that Lao Wu must have something to do when calling at this time, so Baiyu asked directly. Where are you now? Lao Wu didn't answer, but asked Baiyu instead. Fengming Mountain leveling. Baiyu said, stop for a moment and come to my house, it's urgent. After finishing speaking, Old Wu hung up the phone. Baiyu was about to ask why the matter was so urgent, but the beep of the phone being hung up came from the receiver. Baiyu snorted unhappily. What's wrong? After nearly a month of getting along, the team members have also become extremely tacit. Although they bicker occasionally, it doesn't affect the relationship between them getting better and better. Old Wu said something urgent, let me go to his house. Baiyu spread his hands. Then go, our leveling efficiency is already quite high, it's time to take a day off. Yan Yan said. Alright, then go back, you guys have a good rest for a day, I'll go to Lao Wu's house to see what's going on. Bai Yu said. Everyone nodded. They didn't say they would follow. After all, Lao Wu was only looking for Bai Yu, and Lao Wu's family was in the city, so nothing major would happen. Most likely it was about Bai Yu's status as a doctor, so it was useless for them to go. After returning to the city, Bai Yu went straight to Lao Wu's house. Who are you calling? When Lao Wu hung up the phone, Yin Tianyu asked. A cure, old Wu said angrily. Healing, you mean, there is an advanced healer in Wucheng. He has a good relationship with you. Yin Tianyu didn't hear Bai Yu's words, but from Lao Wu's tone, it seemed that the relationship between the two was very good, and they were always on call. Senior Fart, one of my students is also the one you want to meet. Old Wu is very upset now. Yin Tianyu actually keeps his injury a secret from him now. Your student, Department of Healing. Yin Tianyu opened his mouth wide. He finally knew why old Wu couldn't hold back the excitement in his heart, and posted it on moments. If he had such a student, he would be excited too. Light type or water type? Well, wood type is not bad either. Yin Tianyu is very interested in Bai Yu's treatment. People will arrive in a while, you won't see it by yourself. Old Wu didn't show any good looks. Hey. Yin Tianyu patted his head in embarrassment. After being bullied by old Wu, Yin Tianyu was not angry either, as old Wu said, he would know when someone came. Now that old Wu is angry, it's better not to provoke him. Bai Yu came very quickly, and more than half an hour later, there was a knock on the door of old Wu's house. Old Wu got up to open the door, and saw Bai Yu standing at the door. What's the rush? As soon as he entered the door, Bai Yu asked. A friend of mine is injured, please help. Following what old Wu said, Bai Yu also saw Yin Tianyu who was sitting on the sofa and looking at him. Injured. Bai Yu sized Yin Tianyu up and down, but he didn't find any signs of injury on his body. Well, maybe it's a hidden injury or something, it can't be seen on the surface, you check it. Old Wu said. There's nothing to check, the injury can be cured. Bai Yu pouted, walked up to Yin Tianyu, and patted him with his hand. The magic hand rejuvenation starts. Puff. Yin Tianyu didn't respond, but Bai Yu's face turned pale suddenly, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. What's wrong? This situation frightened old Wu and Yin Tianyu. It was the first time for them to see someone who healed others and vomited blood himself. But he saw Bai Yu collapsed on the sofa with a pale complexion, and waved his hands weakly. It's okay, I just feel like my body is being hollowed out. Old Wu and Yin Tianyu were also well informed, and after careful identification, they immediately discovered that Bai Yu was fine, but his spiritual power was suddenly drained. This is where Bai Yu's healing skills are different from others. When other healing systems cast skills, they consume a fixed amount of mana and heal a fixed amount of blood, just like the skills in the game. The moment the skill was cast, the spiritual power had already been drained. As for whether it would be cured well, it was just a shudder anyway. If it is not cured, throw another healing skill. But Bai Yu's healing skills are different. His healing skills will consume spiritual power according to the degree of injury. A light injury consumes less spiritual power, while a severe injury consumes a lot. Just now, when Bai Yu used the skill, he had already determined how much spiritual power he needed to consume, so he began to crazily extract the spiritual power from Bai Yu's body. But Yin Tianyu's injury seemed to be unbelievably serious, and Bai Yu was almost beaten to death. Fortunately, at the last moment, the human body's self-protection mechanism was activated and the skill was forcibly suspended. Otherwise, it would not be as simple as spitting blood. Old Wu, what kind of injury did your friend suffer? It's terrifying. His injury, before I am level 40, I'm afraid I can't do anything about it. Bai Yu rested for a while and recovered some strength before opening his mouth. Ask him. Old Wu nodded Yin Tianyu with his chin. But the expression on Yin Tianyu's face at this time was extremely strange. You mean, you can heal my injury? After a while, Yin Tianyu said. Didn't I say it? It can be cured, but I have to wait until I'm level 40, and now my spiritual power is not enough. Bai Yu rolled Yin Tianyu's eyes. He didn't know Yin Tianyu, but Yin Tianyu didn't have the coercion of a strong man. Even Bai Yu could feel a bit of coercion from old Wu. This person didn't have it at all, so I guess I'm not a very powerful character. So when Bai Yu spoke, he was not polite at all. Impossible, my injury can't be cured by treatment at level 70, but you can cure it at level 40. Are you kidding me? Yin Tianyu didn't believe it. Hey, do you still know the boss at level 70? Since you said it so seriously, then tell me, how did this injury come about? Even level 70 can't be cured. Bai Yu obviously didn't believe it. My injury, strictly speaking, it's not an injury, but a poison. 2 years ago, our team went out on a mission to intercept a group of San who were planning to enter the country illegally. I thought it was just an ordinary mission, but I didn't expect that in the opponent's team, there is a person with poison ability above level 70. I was accidentally tricked. The toxin went deep into the bone marrow, and it couldn't be eradicated, so my ability was useless. I am a strength department. Strong strength requires sufficient muscle and bone support. My ability is still there. I can use my awakening skills normally, and my muscles can use doubled strength, but my bones, because of the corrosion of toxins, can only withstand the strength under normal circumstances. If I use the awakening technique to increase my strength, then the bones will be smashed to pieces because they can't bear it. Yin Tianyu slowly revealed the source of his injury. But Bai Yu was taken aback when he heard this. Level 70. To be able to withstand the toxin of level 70 poison system without dying, Yin Tianyu's level must also be above level 70. He seemed to be very rude to a boss of more than 70 levels just now. However, Yin Tianyu obviously didn't care about this matter, but continued to talk. I have also sought help from the treatment in the army, but the effect is not great. Even the treatment above level 70 cannot eradicate the toxins in my body. Back down. So, I'm seriously asking, can you really heal my injury? Yin Tianyu's expression is very serious. If his poison can be lifted, then he may still have a chance to return to Longwei. Others may not have much affection for the name Longwei, but as a former member, he still has deep feelings for it. If it wasn't for his physical condition, I'm afraid, even if he died in the mission, he wouldn't be willing to retire. It can be cured. Bai Yu's expression is also very serious this time. After knowing that the other party is actually a boss of more than 70 levels, Bai Yu didn't dare to smile anymore. Okay, I believe you. When you reach level 40, I will come to the door with a gift. Please help me heal my injuries. Yin Tianyu said. By the way, old Wu, the genius you mentioned is him, right? Yin Tianyu asked suddenly. Genius. It's almost useless. In front of Bai Yu, old Wu naturally couldn't praise Bai Yu as a genius, otherwise, with this kid's urinating nature, he still doesn't know how high his tail will be. Genius. What genius? When Bai Yu heard the word, genius, he immediately regained his spirits. Didn't you read Lao Wu's circle of friends? Yin Tianyu asked. What's so good about his circle of friends? It hasn't been updated for 800 years. While speaking, Bai Yu turned on the phone and looked at Lao Wu's circle of friends. There is only one single piece of content, and the time happened to be the day when the final exam ended. From this point of view, it seems that there is no need to guess who this genius is talking about. Hey, old Wu, I didn't realize that I have such a high status in your heart. Bai Yu immediately regained his spirits. Obviously, he highly recognized old Wu's affirmation of him. Go away, it's not big or small. Old Wu laughed and cursed. Although Bai Yu is a little bit condescending, old Wu likes him very much. By the way, old Wu, how about lending me a little genius like you for a while? Yin Tianyu spoke suddenly. What do you want? I'm warning you, if you want to lure him to the National Defense University, you have to wait until he graduates from high school. Although it seems tempting to enter college early, the lack of a year of high school will make him lack a lot of knowledge, so don't think about it. Lao Wu is very concerned about Bai Yu's future and doesn't want him to skip a grade. I said borrow. Understand, I didn't say that I would recruit him directly to the National Defense University. However, if he wants to, the door of the National Defense University is always open for him. Of course, what I say doesn't count. Yin Tianyu said half-jokingly. Indeed, the recruitment of students by schools, especially schools like the National Defense University, is not decided by any one person. However, his opinion is still very important. If he recommends someone, it will definitely attract enough attention. Then why did you borrow him? Old Wu asked. Next semester, the hunter contest is about to begin. Yin Tianyu didn't make it clear what the hunter contest was. But after Old Wu heard it, his expression was solemn. The hunter contest is very famous all over the world. This is a competition participated by the elite of the special forces of various countries. But to participate in this competition, there are two restrictions. First, you must be an active military member. Second, you must be a student at school. This has restrictions on age. People like Yin Tianyu, no matter how strong they are, cannot participate. To put it bluntly, this competition is a competition between military academies of various countries. You want him to participate in the hunter competition. Don't you have treatment? How could a school like the National Defense University not have a department of healing? How can one be enough? The rules of this year's hunter contest have changed. 2 teams are needed, and our school only has 1 healer. I was wondering where to find another healer. When I met one, I really broke my shoes. There is nowhere to find it. Yin Tianyu laughed loudly. The rules have changed. Can you change the rules temporarily? Old Wu was a little surprised. The rules of the hunter contest have been used for many years, how can they be changed now? Hey, it's not like you don't know that a certain country has always regarded itself as the world's policeman, and it always engages in all kinds of nonsense. If there is no change in the rules this time, I won't believe it. Besides, under the new rules, each country will send out 2 teams, and they will benefit the most, aren't they? Yin Tianyu said. Why are they the ones who benefit the most? Old Wu may know something, but Bai Yu doesn't. However, the phrase, world police, let Bai Yu know that the so-called certain country is naturally the United States. You should have heard of the style of the United States, causing trouble everywhere, imposing sanctions on other countries and starting wars. War may be a disaster for us, but for them, it is a resource. Did you know? Because the United States is fighting everywhere, it will cause their country to rank among the top of the world's major powers with a population of only a few hundred million. The reason is that when the conflict between the 2 countries reaches a certain level, a national war will be triggered. During the national war, killing people from the hostile country can gain 5 to 10 times the experience. It is because of this that they have a large number of high-level ability users. Let alone 2 teams, even 3 teams may be able to gather together. Although we can barely make up 2 teams, 1 team has no healing and lacks battery life. Therefore, I want him to help us fight this hunter competition. Yin Tianyu looked at Bai Yu and said. No. Hearing that he was going to participate in the worldwide confrontation, Bai Yu was a little excited, but he could still wait for him to speak, but Lao Wu refused. Why? Both Yin Tianyu and Bai Yu didn't understand. To have this kind of competition experience once, it will be extremely beneficial to the growth of the team. Bai Yu. Yin Tianyu doesn't know why Lao Wu refuses. He is only over 10 levels now, you let him go abroad to play competitions. Don't think I don't know, every year there is a death quota in the competition, and some of these people probably didn't die in the competition, but were assassinated by other countries. Under such circumstances, Bai Yu has no self-protection ability, and going there is tantamount to death. No one will let go of a healer who has not yet grown up. Don't tell me that you will protect him, you can't be with him 24 hours a day. At this time, Lao Wu was like an old hen with wings spread out to protect the chicks. You don't understand the competition system this time, there is no dedicated competition venue. 2 teams from 1 country, 1 team goes abroad to challenge on tour, we call this team the kick-off team. Another team is sitting in the school, waiting for teams from other countries to play in the gymnasium. He doesn't have to go abroad, and he doesn't have to face the dangers you worry about. Moreover, it is of great benefit to him to participate in this kind of battle. The game is based on a team. Even if he doesn't need to fight, he can be a member of the team. He can gain experience if he wins the game. Students who can participate in the competition must be at least level 30 or above. The more levels he gains experience, the faster he will level up, you can't even imagine. What's more, the hunter competition also has experience bonuses. Although it is not as exaggerated as the national war, it is much better than killing wild monsters. That is 3 times the experience. In addition, Bai Yu is still leapfrogging, so the experience gained is even more. If it was an ordinary treatment, Bai Yu might not be able to make Yin Tianyu so caring. But Bai Yu seems to be very special. His healing skills can actually heal injuries that cannot be cured at level 70 at level 40. So it must be no problem to participate in the battle of level 30 and level 40 for healing now. Although Bai Yu's claim that he can cure himself at level 40 has not been verified, Yin Tianyu still chooses to believe it because of Bai Yu's unusual reaction before. He had never seen a healer who could heal himself from vomiting blood while treating other people's injuries. If this happens, it means that Bai Yu's healing skills are different, maybe they really have miraculous effects. The two teams participating in the competition this time basically need to engage in round-to-wheel battles. If one team does not receive treatment, once it is injured, it will not know how long it will take to recuperate. Although there are substitute players, the number is limited after all. Without treatment, the speed of recovery is definitely not as fast as the speed of injury. There are regulations in the competition, non-participants are not allowed to intervene, and treatment is not allowed. After Yin Tianyu finished speaking, he didn't know if Lao Wu was tempted or not, but Bai Yu was very tempted anyway. Why don't you let me try? Bai Yu was afraid that old Wu would refuse again, so he hurriedly spoke. You really want to go? Seeing that Bai Yu had spoken by himself, Lao Wu didn't refuse Yin Tianyu anymore, but asked Bai Yu instead. Think about it clearly. Once you participate in the hunter contest, it means that you have officially entered the eyes of all countries. The news of another treatment in Huasha will be known by all countries, and your situation will become extremely serious. Danger. Old Wu exhorted. It's okay, I'll try to keep a low profile. Besides, in the land of Huasha, would they still dare to touch me? Do you think I have no one in Huasha? Bai Yu said carelessly. Bai Yu's words are not unreasonable. So far, Huasha's treatment has been confirmed to be an assassination or an accident. There are no less than 10 people, and none of them came out of Huasha. It can be seen that Huasha protects them. Since you want to go, then go, it's good to learn a lot. Old Wu nodded and said. However, neither Old Wu nor Yin Tianyu knew that Bai Yu's purpose was not gaining knowledge or leveling up. What he thought in his heart was that a fight between a group of 30-level or even 40-level masters was not just a small fight between them, a group of high school students, and the injuries they suffered would naturally be more serious. Maybe one treatment would drain all the spiritual power in his body, but the transformed power is definitely very strong. But spiritual power can be recovered, and if such an opportunity is missed, it will be gone. It is very profitable to exchange renewable resources for non-renewable resources. Seeing Old Wu nodding his head in agreement, Yin Tianyu also beamed with joy. That's it. During the summer vacation, you should work hard to upgrade first, and I will pick you up when school starts. After finishing speaking, regardless of Lao Wu's persuasion, he left directly. Bai Yu didn't stop there any longer, and left Old Wu's house. After going out, Bai Yu called Yan Yan. Why, is it over? Yan Yan's vague voice came from the phone, as if something was stuffed in her mouth, and there were bursts of crisp chewing sounds. Who? Bai Yu. Leave him alone, hurry up and eat. There are other people talking next to it. You went to eat a big meal behind my back. Bai Yu howled. These fools didn't pay much attention to him as the captain. They actually went to eat a big meal at the time when he was going to Lao Wu's house and didn't call him. Hey, talk nicely, why does my family carry you for a big meal? You are so heavy, can I carry it? Yan Yan didn't seem to know what Bai Yu was talking about, she was perfunctory, and by the way, she stuffed a large piece of meat into her mouth, her cheeks were so full that she could barely speak. Where are you? Tell me quickly, otherwise. Otherwise, what can you do with me? Yan Yan provocatively said. Although he said he wouldn't tell Bai Yu, he still sent Bai Yu a location after he hung up the phone. Yeah, I'll kill you. Bai Yu followed the location to the place where Yan Yan and the others had dinner, entered the box, and Bai Yu rushed towards Yan Yan directly. Here you are. As soon as he rushed in front of Yan Yan, before Bai Yu could close his opened mouth, a piece of meat was stuffed into his mouth. Well, it tastes good. Bai Yu seems to have overlooked one thing, these chopsticks are for Yan Yan to eat. Of course, even if he noticed, he wouldn't care. He has no cleanliness. When I was poor when I was a child, several children in the orphanage pooled money together to buy a popsicle, and each of them ate a bite. No one ever disliked saliva. Now it is a beautiful woman like Yan Yan, how could he dislike it? And Yan Yan didn't seem to care about this. After pulling the chopsticks out of Bai Yu's mouth, she naturally picked up a piece of meat, and ate it with relish. Luo Shui frowned slightly, wanting to say something, but finally held back. After asking the waiter to serve another pair of bowls and chopsticks to Bai Yu, the 5 of them joined the battle again. Luo Shui eats very politely. No matter what she eats, she always eats in small bites, chewing slowly, making people feel comfortable just looking at them. But Yan Yan was different. She was careless, without caring about her image at all, she almost grabbed her directly. And Xiao Xiao let go completely, holding this big elbow with both hands, gnawing it with relish. She is of the strength department, and she has an amazing appetite. In addition, she goes out to level up every day, and has been fighting at the forefront, which consumes a lot of energy. Now she eats, she is simply gobbling. And Chu Zhe obviously still couldn't let go. Although everyone is already familiar with it, it seems that you should maintain a gentlemanly demeanor in front of the 3 girls. And the result of his restraint was that the moment he stretched out his chopsticks, the plate was empty. Bai Yu has no scruples at all. It doesn't matter whether you are a gentleman or what, you can choose whatever is delicious, as long as he is eyeing it, even if you have caught it with chopsticks, as long as you haven't put it in your mouth, it's not safe. There are 5 people in a team, and 3 of them are like reincarnated starving ghosts. Chu Zhe and Luo Shui were speechless. In order not to starve his stomach, Chu Zhe also joined the team of grabbing food. Only Luo Shui was still taking her time, but it could still be seen that she added food a little faster. And in the entire private room, there were only dishes on Luo Shui's chopsticks, which were relatively safe. After all, no one wants to bully her. A meal, eating like a war. After eating, the 5 of them returned to their residences. Since they agreed to take a day off today, they no longer went out of the city to level up. There was nothing to do in half a day. Hey, what did old Wu call you for? Yan Yan, who had always been very calm, actually sneaked into Bai Yu's room after returning to the villa, and actually gave Bai Yu a fright. What do you want? Bai Yu covered his chest with both hands, with a frightened expression on his face. Hey, you're going too far. Yan Yan cast a glance at Bai Yu's movements, with a look of displeasure. I don't even piss and take pictures, how do I feel about myself? Think you'll molested him? To be honest, Bai Yu is indeed handsome, but no matter how handsome Yan Yan is, it is impossible for her to come to his room and molest him. Ah, you don't mean that. There was a hint of disappointment in Bai Yu's eyes. It's nothing, just asked me to help someone see an injury, spit out blood, and then added a quick upgrade team, that's it. Bai Yu said. What is that? What Bai Yu said made Yan Yan baffled. How did you heal an injury? Still vomited blood. Is there any necessary connection between these? And the last one, adding a quick upgrade team, what do you mean? This is to abandon the rhythm of their solo flight. You'd better make it clear to my old lady today, otherwise, you don't want to get out of this room. Yan Yan glared at Bai Yu viciously. Chapter 41. In the end, under Yan Yan's coercion, Bai Yu told the whole story. What, are you going to participate in the hunter contest? Is there no one in Huasha? No matter how out of bounds Ren Yan Yan's thinking is, she can't imagine that a guy who jumps in front of her every day can actually participate in such a tall competition. Come on, raise your head up, let me see, what is so outstanding about you that you can be borrowed to participate in the competition? Yan Yan reached out to support Bai Yu's chin. However, Bai Yu was originally taller than Yan Yan, and when he looked at Yan Yan, he kept his head down, so why raise his head? Instead, Yan Yan looked up at Bai Yu. I have to say that Bai Yu is quite handsome, especially those deep eyes, which are concentrating on. Maid, where is he looking? After realizing that something was wrong, Yan Yan took a few steps back and reached out to grab the neckline. This fool actually looked down from her neckline just now. How shameless. Is it nice? Nice. Bai Yu, who hadn't woken up from the charming scenery, replied subconsciously. What color? White spots. As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Yu realized something was wrong. Ah, I don't see anything. Didn't see it. I told you not to see it. Yan Yan held a pair of small fists, rushed forward and gave Bai Yu a hard pounding. Bai Yu was beaten and rolled all over the floor. And Yan Yan jumped on Bai Yu even more fiercely, riding on Bai Yu's body, punching wildly. With Bai Yu's current physical fitness, hitting Yan Yan's body with fists is almost like a massage, but in order to eliminate Yan Yan's anger, Bai Yu can only pretend to be in pain, cover his head with his hands, and let out a painful cry. Bai Yu, in a moment. Well, just as they were having a good time, the door of Bai Yu's room was suddenly pushed open. Chu Zhe poked his head out and was about to talk to Bai Yu when he saw Yan Yan riding on Bai Yu. For a moment, Chu Zhe didn't know whether to go or what to do. Hey, where's Bai Yu? I clearly saw him enter the room, why is there no one in the room? After being stunned for about 2 seconds, Chu Zhe seemed to really see no one, and deliberately looked left and right, then closed the door and backed out. Yan Yan and Bai Yu were left looking at each other. Seemingly aware of the indecent posture, Yan Yan let go of Bai Yu and stood up, walked to the side as if nothing had happened, not forgetting to kick Bai Yu's feet to relieve her anger. If you dare to talk nonsense, I will tear your mouth apart. After thinking about it, Yan Yan still thought it would be better to threaten Bai Yu. Well, I didn't see anything, because there is nothing. Bai Yu nodded seriously. It was fine if he didn't say anything, but Yan Yan's anger rose again when he said it. But this time she held back. If she was bumped into again later, she would really jump into the Yellow River to wash herself away. HMPH, wait for me. After speaking, Yan Yan opened the door and left. After Yan Yan left, Bai Yu got up from the ground, patted the dust off his body, and fell on the bed. Close your eyes, the lingering whiteness is always in front of your eyes. Fidgety. Bai Yu really couldn't stay in the room anymore, he was so upset that he couldn't calm down at all. He stood up, opened the door and walked out, going directly to Chu Ji's room. Are you looking for me? Pushing open the door of Chu Ji's room, he was sitting dryly in the room. It's over, Chu Zhe said something inexplicably. All you see is hallucinations, if you don't want to die, it's best not to mention it. There was nothing wrong between him and Yan Yan, but when Chu Zhe saw their posture, he really couldn't explain it clearly. In short, if this matter gets out, he doesn't know if Chu Zhe has anything to do, and he will definitely not have a good life. Therefore, he can only threaten Chu Zhe viciously. Don't mention it if you don't mention it. By the way, I will go out with me to buy a weapon later. My weapon is a little weak now. As the level increases, the power of everyone's awakening skills also increases, and the efficiency of killing wild beasts rises linearly, but Chu Ji's lethality is all in weapons. Everyone was low level before, and they didn't even have the second awakening skill. In contrast, there is no difference. But now, his efficiency is much lower than others, that's why he has the idea of changing weapons. Speaking of weapons, Bai Yu also remembered the daggers he bought casually before. After helping everyone out of the chaotic state enough times, Bai Yu's mental power has also been strengthened to a new level. Toothless Duck's ability to confuse black and white can no longer affect him, so he also joined the battle. It was also his joining that gave Chu Zhe the idea of changing weapons. I am an assassin, but I am not as fast as a healer to kill beasts, what is this called? Bai Yu's weapons are also rubbish, but his strength is great. Even without weapons, he can tear the Toothless Duck faster than Chu Zhe. Then let's go. It just so happened that I couldn't calm down now, so it was good to go out for a walk, so Bai Yu and Chu Zhe went out without calling the 3 girls. Originally Chu Zhe planned to call Yan Yan and the others together, but was stopped by Bai Yu. Bai Yu, who had the experience of shopping with them once, was determined not to have a second time. Horrible. Boys shopping and playing games are completely opposite to girls. When shopping, boys will think about what they want to buy in advance, and where it is roughly located, then go out, go straight to the target, and leave after shopping. Just like most girls playing games, they don't care about Easter eggs, hidden levels, mysterious treasures and the like, just pass the level. When boys play games, they will visit every corner of the map, looking for Easter eggs or hidden treasures that may appear. Just like girls shopping, they have to go shopping in every corner of the mall. As for what to buy, it doesn't matter, because they may not know what they want to buy, anyway, they just go shopping. Bai Yu and Chu Jie are both boys, so they had already thought about what they wanted to buy on the way, so they went straight to the weapon shop. Then choose your favorite weapon, pay, and leave, without even talking about the price. Chu Jie is still the dagger of choice, but the material and craftsmanship are much better than his original one. The gleaming blade looks very sharp, and the shape is in line with Chu Jie's aesthetics, so he bought it without saying a word. Bai Yu bought a short knife. He doesn't know how to use weapons, and he can't use weapons that are too complicated or delicate. Only the knife is the most suitable, and he can chop with it. After shopping, the two of them went home directly, and the total time was less than an hour. The three girls under the same roof didn't even know that they had gone out. After returning home, they each went back to their rooms. During the rare rest time, Bai Yu planned to sleep well for an afternoon. Leisure time is always short. After a day's rest, the five of them started leveling again. A few days later, after the five of them collectively reached level 16, the toothless duck caves at level 15 were no longer the best leveling point, even though there were a large number of them. As for the new leveling beast, Bai Yu and the others went through some exploration, and finally chose the 18th level bouncer rabbit. There are also a lot of them, and the danger is not particularly high, and the level of 18 is enough for them to practice until the start of school. 1 month seems to be a long time, but it doesn't seem to be that long. In the tense and exciting level training, time flies, and in a blink of an eye, the start of school is just around the corner. Are you still going today? Early in the morning, the five of them habitually get up early and gather in the living room, but school will start tomorrow. It seems that we should adjust our mentality today and get ready for school to start. Let's not go, let's relax today. Anyway, I'm already level 18, and it's still too early to be promoted to 19, so just take a break from your busy schedule. Although Yan Yan got up, she obviously didn't intend to go out from the beginning, and she was still sleepy, her hair was messed up, and she didn't clean it up. Then I won't go, it happens that I haven't slept enough yet, so I'll go back to sleep again. Bai Yu also echoed. Bai Yu has not been so active in leveling recently. The main reason is that after everyone gets used to the attacking style of the bunny, they are rarely injured, and basically don't need his treatment. Without treatment, there will be no attribute transformation, and simply gaining experience makes Bai Yu feel very boring. After speaking, Bai Yu got up and walked to the room. It was really refreshing to go back to the cage. When I woke up, it was almost 12 o'clock in the noon. Bai Yu had never felt so refreshed. After dressing and washing, Bai Yu opened the door and walked out. Then knock on the door one by one. Get up and eat. Bai Yu's roar resounded throughout the villa. What's the name of the ghost? It's coming. Only Yan Yan responded to Bai Yu, but everyone walked out of the room. Except for Yan Yan, who was a little later. The others came out almost after Bai Yu finished yelling, so they probably didn't sleep. And Yan Yan had just finished sleeping, so naturally she had to tidy up. On the last day of the summer vacation, some people choose to go crazy, while others spend it in a low-key manner. But Bai Yu and the others chose to do something meaningful. Hongshan Orphanage, the place where Bai Yu grew up, has 5 more volunteers today. No, it's 4. The other 4 came to be volunteers, while Bai Yu went home. Brother Bai Yu. As soon as he arrived at the door, a sharp-eyed little guy spotted Bai Yu, rushed over, and crashed into Bai Yu's arms. Hey, it's Bai Shui this time, how did you find out that I'm back? Bai Yu stretched out his hand to hug Bai Shui, and pinched her chubby little face. Hee hee, I smell candy. Bai Shui rolled her eyes and said. Brother Bai Yu. Bai Shui was only 1 step faster, and there were many children behind, also flocking to her. During the summer vacation, the slightly older and school-aged children also returned to the orphanage from school, and there was only 1 day before school started, and they had not yet returned to school. The orphanage at this time is very lively. Bai Qian was still brewing a pot of tea, lying on the rocking chair, and beside him were 2 more sensible children who were fanning him, living a very pleasant life. The other children were all playing together, and when they saw Bai Yu coming back, they all dropped their stuff and ran over. Haha, did you miss brother Bai Yu? Bai Yu put Bai Shui down, now among the children, and asked loudly. Think. The children shouted at the top of their voices. Come on, share the candies. Back this time, Bai Yu still did not forget to bring candy to the children. After distributing the candy in his pocket to the children, Bai let them play by themselves. Seeing this scene, the people in the team suddenly had a change in their perception of Bai. They could tell that Bai was really popular here. All children love him from the bottom of their hearts. Bai, this is where you grew up. Yan Yan walked to Bai's side, looking at the children laughing and this small orphanage. Yes, go, let's show you around. Bai nodded, and greeted a few people. The four of them followed Bai into the orphanage, and Bai greeted Bai Qian without disturbing his leisurely enjoyment, and led them straight into the innermost part of the orphanage. Canteen, dormitory, activity room. Although the orphanage is small, it is still divided into areas. Although it is leaky, it is organized in an orderly manner. Sanitation is also very clean. Watching and talking all the way, it took only 10 minutes to visit the entire orphanage. When Bai and the others returned to the courtyard, Bai Ling quietly left the children's pile and joined Bai. Brother Bai, these two sisters are so beautiful, are they our sister-in-law? Tong Yan Wuji, children, when they see something good, they naturally want to go to their home. And Luo Shui and Yan Yan are so beautiful that Bai Ling, a little girl, can't help but like them. Naturally, she hopes that they can become her sister-in-law, so that she can see them often. Bai Ling spoke in a low voice, but Yan Yan and Luo Shui were beside Bai, so they naturally heard it. As for why only the two of them were asked, Chu Zhe habitually stood in the shadow, and his presence was not strong. And Xiao Xiao, this is Sha Tian, with her physique, people who don't pay attention to her face will probably regard her as a man with long hair. Well, Bai was so asked by Bai Ling that he suddenly didn't know how to answer. Don't talk nonsense, let's go, let's play games together. Yan Yan glared at Bai, then pulled Luo Shui and Bai Ling and ran to play with the children. This made Bai heave a sigh of relief. He really didn't know how to answer. Say yes, but obviously not. Say no, I seem to think so. Or two, tisk tisk. Yan Yan and Luo Shui went to play games with the children. Xiao Xiao didn't seem to like the excitement very much, and stayed in the corner with Chu Zhe, not knowing what they were talking about. Bai leaned over to Bai Qian, took the fan from a little guy, and drove the two little guys away. Grandpa Dean. Bai sat down beside Bai Qian and fanned him. Hee, I finally saw that you brought friends back. Young people, you should make more friends. Bai Qian was smiling. Well, Grandpa Dean, school will start tomorrow, I may go to a faraway place, I'm afraid I will rarely come back. Bai said. After school starts, he will go to the National Defense University to participate in the competition. Not to mention the thousands of mountains and rivers, but after all, he has crossed several provinces, and it is not close. Oh, where are you going? Bai Qinhei's narrowed eyes finally opened. National Defense University. It is said that it is going to participate in the pickup contest and be a foreign aid. Bai said. National Defense University. Bai Qian was surprised. He had also heard about the hunter competition, but he never thought that the cub he brought up could already participate in a competition of this level. Bai Qian naturally knew that Bai was in the Department of Healing. Although he was only about to enter his third year of high school, given the special nature of the treatment, it was reasonable to be pulled as a foreign aid. When you go out, remember to take care of yourself. When you go out, you must remember that you must not have the intention to harm others, and you must not have the intention to guard against others. Bai Qian didn't say anything about being reluctant. He knew that when the children grew up, one day they would leave him one by one and live their own lives. Maybe in the eyes of outsiders, Bai is a troublemaker or something else. But in his eyes, he was always that well-behaved child. The time in the orphanage was peaceful and passed quickly, and the sky darkened unconsciously. Bai and the others didn't stay for dinner. School will start tomorrow, so we still need to prepare, and then have a good night's rest to welcome the arrival of the new semester. The weather in September is still hot, and the school gate is full of people, including students returning to school and parents sending their children off. The security guards at the gate worked hard to maintain order, sweating profusely. Many students who lived on campus walked to school with big bags and small bags, and they didn't forget to turn their heads to tell their parents to go back quickly. Bai and the others didn't take anything, and entered the school gate with ease. You didn't go home this summer, isn't your family worried? Bai Yu asked the other four. It's not far from my home. Besides, I call every day to report that I'm safe. Chu Jie said. Me too, Xiao Xiao said. TCH, my parents are so busy that they almost can't remember having a daughter like me, so they don't care about it. Yan Yan said angrily. Telephone. For the first time ever, Luo Shui replied to Bai Yu. It seems that the visit to the orphanage made Luo Shui feel a lot better about Bai Yu, and even made her feel a little closer. In fact, although Bai Yu didn't go back to the orphanage, he often called back. In his heart, the orphanage is his home. Hearing Yan Yan's words, everyone didn't know whether to comfort or what to say. I don't know the details, and it's not convenient to talk. Snort. Just when the atmosphere was slightly awkward, a cold snort came from the side. Bai Yu turned his head and saw that Lin Zong's team was passing by, but his eyes were looking forward, as if the sound just now was not made by them. Is the school starting to raise pigs now? Do you think pork bought outside is unsafe? Bai Yu suddenly said to Yan Yan. It seems so, but if you raise pigs, and you don't lock them up, just let them run around outside. At this time, Yan Yan, who usually bickers with Bai Yu the most, has the best understanding with him. Who do you call a pig? Hearing this, Lin Zhong was unhappy, and turned his head to stare at Bai Yu and Yan Yan viciously. It's not a pig, why are you humming all day long? Besides, I didn't mention you by name, why did you come up to get scolded by yourself? Facing Lin Zhong, Bai Yu didn't hesitate at all, and he still remembered that before the holiday, he was the one who helped Chin An's group hold him back. Are you looking for a fight? Seeing that the captain seemed to be no match for Bai Yu in bickering, the beast department of Lin Zong's team immediately stood up and stood in front of Bai Yu. How old are you? Bai Yu gave him a sideways look and was unmoved. At this time, a big hand stretched out from behind Bai Yu's shoulder, pinched the beast's neck and lifted it up. It was Xiao Xiao who made the move. Now Xiao Xiao still remembers that Bai Yu said that as a teammate, one should help each other, and now that someone seems to make trouble for Bai Yu, then she is not welcome. The beast transformation department began to struggle after being pinched by Xiao Xiao's neck, but although his beast transformation direction was a tiger and his strength was not weak, he was nothing in front of Xiao Xiao. Let him struggle until his face flushed, but he couldn't open Xiao Xiao's fingers. Like a chick, Xiao Xiao took the animalization department aside, not letting him disturb Bai Yu. What are you doing? Let him go. Bai Yu, I warn you, school, don't go too far. Lin Zhong looked at the veterinary department who was restrained and yelled at Bai Yu. What happened to the school? Do you still want to expel me? I'm sorry, if it was you, you might really be expelled, but if it's me, even if you go too far, you'll be fine, because brother is treating you. Bai Yu smiled charmingly at Lin Zhong. Although Bai Yu's words sounded a little exaggerated, Lin Zhong knew that it was true. There is no way, treatment is so rare, even if he makes some mistakes, the school will not expel Bai Yu. Let him go, I was wrong this time. Seeing his teammates looking like they were dying, Lin Zhong finally lowered his head. You're wrong. What do you mean? I bullied you. Although Lin Zhong was willing to bow his head for his teammates, Bai Yu Gao took a look at him. But Bai Yu is not a fuel-efficient lamp. Now that you have messed with yourself, you must be prepared to pay the price. Bai Yu, don't force me. Lin Zhong bit his lower lip tightly, and stared at Bai Yu with wide eyes. Bloodshot eyes already appeared in his eyes. It can be seen that he endured a lot of pain. What, you want to hit me? Come on. Bai Yu looked like he deserved a beating. Fight. Hee, it's just commonplace, but in a real fight, Lin Zhong can't be Bai Yu's opponent. Even with the awakening skill, Bai Yu is not afraid of Lin Zhong in one-on-one battles. People like Lin Zhong are just showing off in class. He is a professional to show off his superiority, but if he wants to fight, Bai Yu beats him 10 blocks. You are too deceitful. Lin Zhong's eyes were already bloodshot, and it seemed that he was on the verge of an explosion. But Bai Yu is still rude. Come on, do it. Warning you, fight with me, I may be fine, and you may face the danger of being expelled. After all, the school does not lack fire department at all. Bai Yu put his face in front of Lin Zhong, motioning him to hit here. Lin Zhong knew in his heart that what Bai Yu said was right. The school lacked treatment, so Bai Yu could be allowed to do some excessive things. However, There are only 2 people with fire ability in their class, including the whole school. There are definitely no less than 20, which is not uncommon at all. Therefore, the fire element, which seems to be infinitely beautiful, is actually no different. Sorry. In the end, Lin Zong's actions were beyond everyone's expectations. Even Lin Zong's own team didn't expect that Lin Zhong, who was always as proud as a peacock, would apologize to Bai Yu. I'm sorry, I was wrong, I shouldn't provoke you, please let go of my friend. After Lin Zhong exhausted all his strength to say those 3 words, his tone of speech became smoother, and he said to Bai Yu. Now, it's up to Bai Yu to fix it. What did you say? Bai Yu is really not making things difficult for Lin Zhong this time, but he suspects that he has auditory hallucinations. Will Lin Zhong apologize? Really, I'm sorry, please let go of my friend. Lin Zhong said again. This time, Bai Yu finally heard clearly. He waved at Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao loosened her hand and let go of the boy from the beast department. Ahem. After being let go, the veterinary boy fell to the ground, covered his throat with his hands, and coughed violently. Let's go. Lin Zhong stepped forward to help the boy from the animalization department, and left with the team. Did we meet the fake Lin Zhong? Even Yan Yan felt incredible. He walked up to Bai Yu and asked in a low voice. Suddenly, I feel that Lin Zhong is not so annoying anymore. Bai Yu didn't answer the question. Regardless of his character and style, a person who values affection will always be admirable. Let's go, the first day of school, to meet the classmates who have been away for a long time. After speaking, Bai Yu walked into the classroom first. The classroom is still that classroom, and the people are still those people. The people of Lin Zong's team huddled in the corner, trying not to be so conspicuous. I'm sorry, Lin Jie. The veterinary boys blamed themselves very much. It was all because of his impulsiveness that Lin Zhong apologized to Bai Yu, whom he has always hated the most, in order to save himself. Don't pay too much attention, I treat you as brothers, if you have something to do, I will naturally not stand idly by. Face may be important, but brothers are more important. Face is not given by others, but earned by yourself. If you lose it this time, you can earn it back later. If the brother is gone, then it is gone. Lin Zhong said in a low voice. Lin Zhong seemed ashamed this time, but after thinking about it, it was not without benefits. At least, his team will be monolithic from now on. On the first day of school, many students were very excited and actively showed off their achievements this summer. During the summer vacation, it was naturally upgraded. At this time, a boy was holding up his mobile phone, and on it was an app interface called Tomato. This mobile phone is the only mobile software that can be connected to the mysterious system. You can see the level of yourself and your friends in the app. As for other functions, there will be no more. After all, there are watches that are specially connected to the system, and it is already very good that a mobile phone can develop a software to connect to the system. At this moment, the phone interface was enlarged in one position, displaying his name and rank on it. Name: Zhang Wei. Grade: 17. The interface is very simple, but the number 17 is very conspicuous. Because most of the people in the class are at level 16, although they are not far from level 17, they haven't been promoted yet. Zhang Wei, awesome, you've actually reached level 17. Someone exclaimed enviously. Hey. Zhang Wei didn't talk to him either, just smirked to himself. There are 5 people in Zhang Wei's own team, but by the beginning of the school year, he was the only one among the 5 who had advanced to level 17, and the others were still short of a bit of experience and hadn't been able to make it up. Because Zhang Wei's accumulated experience before the holiday is higher than theirs, it is normal to upgrade in advance. And their team didn't relax for a moment this summer vacation. Except for the necessary rest, they have been practicing leveling almost all the time, and their efficiency is not low. That's why Zhang Wei is complacent because of his 17th level. Because he knew that there might not be many people in the class who could reach level 17 like him. Regarding Zhang Wei's 17th level, most people in the class were amazed and commented, only a few people watched him quietly pretending to be aggressive. If you want to talk about the level of Lin Zong's team will naturally not be low. Their attacking team is definitely the strongest in the class in terms of the efficiency of brushing beasts to upgrade. It is impossible for Shuiyu's team to be faster than them. However, lack of treatment is their flaw, so until now, only Lin Zhang in their team has reached level 18, and the other 4 have only reached level 17. Of course, Lin Zhang's team can pull out anyone at random, and they can complete the slap in the face against Zhang Wei. But they just had a slap on Bai Yu's hands this morning, and now they are not in the mood to show off. When Zhang Wei was pretending to be aggressive, the corners of his eyes kept sweeping towards Lin Zhang. What he was most worried about was Lin Zhang's team. But when Lin Zhang's team was indifferent, he was secretly happy. If even members of Lin Zhang's team couldn't crush him in terms of level, then his level might be the highest in the class. What the hell, level 17 is amazing. Zhang Wei is not the only one who likes to be in the limelight. There are many people in the class who like to be in the limelight. It's just that they can't come up with a level that can crush Zhang Wei at this time. But if they can't get it out, it doesn't mean that Yan Yan can't get it out either. Yan Yan didn't run to the podium to take out her mobile phone like Zhang Wei did, and held it in her hand like a fool. She turned on her watch directly and chose the projection. Yan Yan's watch has more functions than her mobile phone. Holographic projection is just one of the functions. At this time, above everyone's heads, a huge virtual screen several meters wide appeared. Some of Yan Yan's personal data are displayed on it. Name: Yan Yan. Grade: 18. Attribute: Fire. Talent: Skill. Power of elements: you can turn yourself into an element, and you can also control the elements of this department at will. Awakening skills: Fireball Burst, Explosive Flame. There is a long list of personal information, but everyone's attention is still on the gorgeous level 18. The app on the mobile phone can view your own detailed information, but you cannot see other people's. But the wristwatch is different. The wristwatch can not only look at your own, but also look at your friends. Yan Yan seemed to feel that this was not shocking enough. So, I reached out and started to operate on the watch. Afterwards, the profiles of the 5 members of Shuiyu's team were all displayed. However, Yan Yan still kept an eye out. When displaying other people's information, I chose to hide the detailed information, only showing the name and level. Even so, the 5 18th grades in one uniform still stunned everyone. Even Lin Zhang's team lowered their heads silently. No wonder teams with healers are known as fantasy combinations. Look at the leveling efficiency of others. Of course, it can be said that Bai Yu has half of the credit for Shuiyu's team to have such an efficiency. The first is his status as a healer, which allows the team to fight continuously without rest. But if that's the case, their leveling efficiency should be about the same as that of Lin Zhang's team. After all, they lost one output. Under normal circumstances, as a healer, he would level up under the protection of his teammates, and it was even more impossible to rush up to deal damage. But Bai Yu is an exception. His strong physical fitness allowed him to cause even greater damage than Chu Jie during the leveling process. Chu Jie's ability is quite powerful for assassination, but it can be used for leveling, which is really not his strong point. If it weren't for the change of weapons, I'm afraid his efficiency would not be as good as Bai Yu's bare hands. With the addition of Bai Yu, all 5 members of the team are DPS, and the efficiency of killing monsters has suddenly increased. Only in this way can Lin Zhang's team be left behind. Really, all staff level 18, are you kidding me? No wonder the students were so surprised. Throughout the history of No. 3 middle school, there is no team that can advance to level 18 at the beginning of the 3rd year of high school. This is a precedent for them. Like Moreau's class, when the school started, the highest level was level 17, and the number of people was pitifully small. After graduating from high school, there are only a handful of people who can advance to level 19. And the level of the Shuiyu team can be described as a high starting point. According to their efficiency, they won't be promoted to level 20 when they graduate next year, right? Zon level. Someone made a bold guess. Zon level. If all the members are Zon level, can we try that Zon level leader? Someone made a bolder guess. Wow, I'm already looking forward to it. Some people dare to say it, and some people dare to believe it. They seem to be sure that Bai Yu and the others can reach level 20 now. Seeing the surprised expressions of all the students, Yan Yan looked at Zhang Wei with disdain as if she had won the battle, and put away the holographic projection. But Zhang Wei's face has lost the color of pride. He was also shocked by the fact that Yan Yan and the others were all level 18. There is no doubt that this wave of slaps made him a little confused. Be quiet. In the classroom, there were discussions one after another, and the noise almost lifted the roof. At this time, the only one who can calm the students down is the teacher. Old Wu didn't know when he arrived at the door of the classroom. After hearing the movement in the classroom, he frowned slightly and walked in. Old Wu's voice did not overwhelm the noise of the students. However, there were always a few students with sharp eyes who noticed Lao Wu's arrival, so they stopped discussing, and at the same time signaled to the students around them to be quiet. As one person quieted down, the other people seemed to have a chain reaction, and their voices gradually became smaller until they became silent. Old Wu was standing at the door, waiting quietly. Knowing that the classroom had completely quieted down, he walked to the podium unhurriedly with his hands behind his back. It can be seen that everyone is still very enthusiastic about the start of school. Very good. Since everyone is so enthusiastic, I hope everyone will continue to maintain this enthusiasm and devote themselves to learning. During the third year of high school, there will be many opportunities to organize everyone to go out and upgrade. This semester, our goal is for all staff to reach level 18. If you can't reach it, please ask for blessings. As soon as Old Wu's voice fell, he heard a wail from below. Of course they like to upgrade, but, in one semester, all the staff are at level 18. What a joke. Didn't you see that there were so many 18th grade students during the college entrance examination? Do you think level 18 is so easy to upgrade? Do you think everyone is the group of perverts from Shui Yu's team? When someone sets a goal for something you are passionate about, you will find that you don't seem to like it that much anymore. Howling, howling, one by one, can you be a little bit self-motivated? Do you know that when you are still worrying about upgrading, some of us are about to represent the entire China and participate in the worldwide hunter competition? Old Wu dropped a blockbuster again. The students were all stunned. Even Bai Yu is no exception. Do you want to be so high profile? Can't you go secretly? Do you have to say it in front of so many people? Now, in the hearts of the students, Bai Yu became that other person's child. But now everyone only knows that there is such a person, and they don't know that it is Bai Yu for the time being. Teacher, who on earth is so awesome that he can participate in the hunter competition in high school? Is it Zhang Hao from class 1? Zhang Hao is the only thunder type in the third middle school, and the attack power of a single element is stronger than that of the fire type. In everyone's perception, if one of their schools were to be selected to participate in the competition, Zhang Hao would undoubtedly be the best candidate. Only with the strong attack power of the lightning element can one have a certain possibility of winning against someone of a higher level at a low level. However, they also didn't think about it. If they were to pick someone with a high attack power, wouldn't they be able to find a higher level thunder element in the whole country? I won't say who it is. Now, let me introduce someone to everyone. As he spoke, Old Wu pointed to the door. As everyone's eyes turned to the door, Yin Tianyu in military uniform appeared at the right time. With his burly figure, serious expression, coupled with his straight military uniform, and a looming scar at the corner of his eye, he looked inexplicable. Pressure. Even if he didn't say a word, but just calmly glanced at the students in this class, they didn't dare to show their anger. Yin Tianyu, the military instructor of the National Defense University, is also the leader of this hunter competition. After Lao Wu's introduction, Yin Tianyu stepped onto the podium. Students, hello everyone. I am Yin Tianyu, a military instructor at the National Defense University. I am very glad to be here today and see the future of your motherland. I came today to take away the last member of our participating team. Yin Tianyu said. The last member, isn't it Zhang Hao? Who would that be? Just now I was wondering if it was Zhang Hao from the first class, but now that Yin Tianyu came directly to their class, then this person must not be Zhang Hao. Who would that be? Could it be Bai Yu? Someone thought that, in terms of uniqueness, Bai Yu's uniqueness is definitely higher than that of Zhang Hao. Bai Yu. They haven't completely gotten rid of the cognition that Bai Yu is a waste, and when they are thinking about candidates, they subconsciously avoid Bai Yu. Now that I think about it, it seems reasonable. High school students are much worse than college students. Even Zhang Hao is not qualified to jump in front of college students. College students basically start at the Zon level, and there are some of them at the Earth level or even the Sky level. Zhang Hao is a yellow rank, and he might be able to compete with some college students who are not good at attacking in terms of attack power, but in a fight, there is absolutely no chance of winning. Bai Yu can be treated. It doesn't matter how high or low the level is, as long as it can heal injuries. Perhaps it would be more suitable for him to participate than Zhang Hao. Next, Yin Tianyu said a lot more eloquently. Don't look at his rough appearance, but he speaks in a way. What are you talking about? I see that all the students present here are all with strange bones, and they will definitely be dragons and phoenixes in the future. I am waiting for you at the National Defense University. Although it was just a bluff, but in the ears of these young people, it was different. Who is the person in front of me? The dignified military instructor of the National Defense University. Could there be a problem with his vision? That must be impossible. In addition, the average grade of their class has indeed exceeded the average grade of the third year of the third middle school. This boosted their confidence all of a sudden. He felt that Yin Tianyu's eyes were as bright as a torch, and he saw their extraordinariness, so he was naturally very happy. After finishing the courtesies, Yin Tianyu took Bai Yu away. All the students were happy, but Bai Yu was not happy at all. This is somewhat different from what he thought in his heart. He originally thought that the dignified National Defense University would take him to participate in world competitions again, and the pomp and circumstance must be in place. Somehow, a gunship or something should be sent to pick him up. The results of it. That's it. Bai Yu got into Yin Tianyu's car and looked out the window at the buildings that were constantly receding. Where is this going? It's hard to know Bai Yu in Wuchang, but he is quite familiar with the roads in the city where he grew up. The direction Yin Tianyu is driving in front of him is neither the airport, nor the station, nor the highway intersection. Bai Yu didn't know where Yin Tianyu was going to take him. Where are you going? Of course, the Ministry of Armed Forces. The students of the National Defense University are all active duty soldiers. When they enroll, they will naturally have special processing channels. But you were not recruited by the National Defense University, so you need to go through the regular recruitment process. Soon, the car stopped in front of the gate of the Armed Forces Department. It can be seen that there are still many people in the Armed Forces Department queuing up. Obviously, these are all recruits who have been conscripted into the army. Go, line up. Yin Tianyu asked Bai Yu to get off the car, pointed to the long dragon in front of him, and said to Bai Yu. Line up. You are such a big major general standing here, you let me go in line, you can't join the line, just handle it for me. Bai Yu pointed to the major general rank on Yin Tianyu's shoulder, rolled his eyes and said. Follow the rules. Yin Tianyu ignored Bai Yu and pushed him over. In desperation, Bai Yu had to stand at the end of the line. Bai Yu moved forward slowly following the long line. The purpose of queuing up here is to register and then receive the medical examination form. After getting the form, you need to compare the contents in the form and conduct a physical examination one by one. After checking height, weight, hearing, eyesight, tattoos, and infectious diseases, it was already afternoon. Bai Yu thought it would be over after all this tossing, but the message he received was, waiting for distribution. All major arms across the country basically recruit recruits at the same time. After the physical examination is over, the arms and regions will be assigned according to their physical condition. Although this is the era of national awakening, not all soldiers are awakened from the combat department. Awakened can be roughly divided into combat and life. But between the two, there is a secondary combat system. The awakening ability of this kind of people does not belong to life skills, but they do not have awakening skills, nor can they be regarded as combat skills. Their awakened talent skills are usually shooting, lurking, detection, infiltration and other skills that can be used on the battlefield. They can be regarded as natural soldiers. Bai Yu stayed with these people, waiting for distribution. He really wanted to ask Yin Tianyu what was going on, but after Yin Tianyu sent him here, he disappeared. Bai Yu felt that he seemed to be tricked. The aimless waiting was quite long. Bai Yu squatted in the corner alone and counted ants, unwilling to communicate with other recruits around him. Until he heard someone call his name. Bai Yu, who is Bai Yu? The recruits around were still very enthusiastic. When they heard someone calling their names and no one answered, they helped them shout in the crowd. I'm Bai Yu. Bai Yu stood up and walked out. Your name is Bai Yu. Report over there. The roll caller pointed in a direction, and there were already a lot of recruits gathered there, so it was easy to recognize. Bai Yu walked over there. Bai Yu didn't feel happy because he was assigned, because he knew that it was just waiting in another place. Bai Yu was right. When he got here, he was still waiting, and he didn't even have the chance to squat down and count ants. Here are a few people in military uniforms maintaining order. For these recruits, the ideological transformation has already begun from now on. It is impossible to let them do whatever they want without organization and discipline. That soldier over there, stand still, why are you looking around? The squad leader's voice was very penetrating, and it was still heard clearly in such a noisy environment. He didn't specify which one, but everyone felt as if he was talking about himself. His majestic gaze swept across, and everyone stood up straight unconsciously, including Bai Yu. Bai Yu himself was considered a thorn, but after the squad leader's falcon-like gaze swept over him, he unconsciously cooperated. Bai Yu complained in his heart after the action was done. Why should I cooperate with him? He said, stand up straight. But now that the body has reacted, it would be too deliberate to restore it to its previous state. The squad leader seemed to notice the difference between Bai Yu and looked over. But this glance, like the suppression of blood, made Bai Yu involuntarily puff up his chest again. As soon as the action was done, Bai Yu let out a sound in his heart. However, after all, it still didn't move. The speed at which recruits are assigned becomes faster and faster as the number of recruits decreases. Soon, Bai Yu's team had more than 300 people, and no one came over after that. And they, under the leadership of the squad leader, went to collect their military uniforms and bedding. After receiving all the things, Bai Yu still didn't see Yin Tianyu. According to his previous temperament, it is entirely possible to run away at this time. But he has already completed the registration and physical examination, and now he runs away, so he is a deserter. The Chinese people are disgusted with the word deserter from the bottom of their hearts, so Bai Yu plans to follow the big army first to see what kind of medicine is sold in Yin Tianyu's gourd. And this time he followed directly to the train station. Looking at the train bound for the north in front of him, Bai Yu followed the team and got on the train in hesitation. As the train sped by, Bai Yu looked out the window in bewilderment. Don't you want to go to National Defense University? Why did he become a soldier in a daze, and now he is riding a train, heading towards an unknown place? Looking at the increasingly remote and barren landscape outside the window, Bai Yu's heart also went cold. In northern Xinjiang, in the boundless Gobi Desert, military trucks are speeding on the Gobi Desert, bringing smoke and dust all the way. Ahem, what the hell is this place? In the carriage, all the recruits had drooping faces, and the initial excitement had long since disappeared. Next to Bai Yu, a fat man with fair skin who looked pampered at home, covered his mouth and coughed violently twice before complaining. If I had known I was going to this kind of place where the birds don't shit, I wouldn't have come. They all lied to me, saying that the army is fun and has guns. No, I want to go back. The little fat man kept babbling beside Bai Yu. What, are you going to jump out of the car? Bai Yu listened to the little fat man talking all the way, but couldn't see his movements, so he couldn't help but say something. You, don't think that I dare not jump. I am waiting for the opportunity. When the time is right, I will jump, and then I will be free. The little fat man seemed to feel that he was being looked down upon, so he said hastily. Then you jump, look around here, the endless Gobi Desert. After you jump, where are you going? Do you know which direction the city is in? I'm going back the same way. The little fat man said stubbornly. Go back the same way. Do you know how many turns we turned this way? You want to say follow the ruts, don't you? Seeing that the little fat man was about to refute, Bai Yu interrupted directly. Even if you can walk out along the rut, do you know how much time it will take? You can't just use this time to hurry, and you have to avoid the eyes of the squad leaders to have a chance to run. Based on the time it took us to enter the Gobi Desert by car, it would take a day to go out, not counting your wrong path. What do you eat and drink during this day? Even if you can endure humiliation and drink your own urine when you're thirsty, what if you're hungry? Do you eat cactus tumbleweed? Also, I heard that there are many creatures that have been systematically modified in the Gobi Desert, but because there are few people, there is no leveling area. By the way, there is a kind of scorpion. It seems to have mutated after transformation. It can reach more than 2 meters in size. I don't know if there are any here. Bai Yu was talking to himself, not caring that the face of the little fat man next to him was as white as paper. Undoubtedly, Bai Yu's words not only dispelled the little fat man's idea of running away, but even the other people who were eager to try what the little fat man said sat back quietly. The 2-meter-long scorpions are just awakened members of the secondary combat department. If they don't have enough powerful weapons, they are going to deliver food. The little fat man leaned back in the carriage with a slumped face, drooping his head, with a look of lovelessness. The convoy was still moving forward, and after driving for several hours, buildings finally appeared on the vast Gobi Desert. It appeared so abruptly in everyone's field of vision, surrounded by high walls, it looked like a prison. The function of this wall is not only to prevent the recruits from escaping, but also to resist the wild beasts wandering nearby. This is a new training base, covering an area large enough to accommodate thousands of recruits. The convoy drove into the base and stopped on the empty playground. The recruits jumped out of the car carrying camouflage bags. "Hurry up, come and assemble." The squad leader leading the team went to the front and organized the recruits to assemble. There are recruits sent from all over the country in this base, not just Bai Yu and his 200 or so. On the other side of the playground, there were also hundreds of recruits standing there basking in the sun. Bai Yu had a bad premonition in his heart. Sure enough, after the team assembled, the truck drove away, but they were left here. The scorching sun makes people drowsy, but how can they fall asleep standing up? In front of Bai Yu, the little fat man stood there, still muttering non-stop, but Bai Yu didn't pay attention to what he said, it was probably nonsense. He looked at the training base. There are only a few buildings in the base, which should be dormitories and a canteen. There are several playgrounds, which should be used for training of recruits. There are some relatively low buildings in the distance, which Bai Yu guessed should be warehouses. Time passed by every minute and every second, and the sun began to set, and the little fat man standing in front of Bai Yu was already starting to crumble. "I'm so uncomfortable, I can't do it." The little fat man muttered something, and then he straightened up and fell over to Bai Yu who was behind him. "You can't do it if you say it can't do it." Bai Yu quickly stretched out his hand to put on the little fat man's back. As soon as he made contact, the state of the little fat man appeared in Bai Yu's mind. Faint. This guy, it turned out he wasn't just pretending, he really couldn't do it. Bai Yu almost subconsciously displayed calmness and helped the little fat man get rid of the negative state. The little fat man was refreshed. "What's wrong with me?" After recovering, the little fat man looked confused. "You are dying, I saved you, thank you." "That soldier over there, what are you muttering in the queue?" Just as Bai Yu finished speaking, he heard a loud roar. "Squad leader, how long are we going to stand? He fainted just now." Bai Yu asked. "Don't you know to make a report before speaking?" "Report to the squad leader, when are we going to stand?" Not only Bai Yu wants to know this question, but other people also want to know. But will the squad leader let them know casually? That is impossible. That's a good question, but I don't want to tell you. Also, who told you to speak in the queue? Come out. The squad leader who leads the recruits always likes to toss the recruits in different ways to smooth their edges and corners. Troops don't need individuality, what they need is obedience and uniformity. Therefore, Bai Yu naturally got a lap running package. Although Bai Yu was the only one running the lap, the others were also feeling uncomfortable. At this time, it was time for meal, and after a day of tossing on the road, the recruits who finally just stuffed their stomachs casually were already hungry. Especially seeing that other queues have started to disband and go to the cafeteria to eat, their stomachs are even more hungry. The running track of the playground has a lap of 400 meters, and Bai Yu is fine to run 10 laps. The distance of 4,000 meters may be a bit difficult for ordinary people, but for Bai Yu, it is a piece of cake. For these 10 laps, he ran almost without slowing down. Seeing that Bai Yu had finished running, the recruits also breathed a sigh of relief, as they were able to eat. The squad leader didn't make things difficult for them anymore, but he looked at Bai Yu in a strange way. This kind of capable recruit is loved and hated by the monitors. Love, because they are capable, and there are some competitions during the training camp, they can fight for honor for the class. Hate, that's because such guys are usually thorny heads, and they don't know how powerful they are, so it's very troublesome to discipline them. Especially if the squad leader doesn't have much ability, he really can't keep them down. After entering the cafeteria, the recruits who were already starving began to gobble up. It has to be said that the first meal of enlisting in the army was quite hearty, which temporarily calmed their hearts. After eating, the recruits were gathered together again, and it was time to divide into classes. In front of the queue, a row of veterans stood there with their heads held high. These were the squad leaders in charge of training the recruits. As the recruits whose names were read came out one by one and left with the squad leader, fewer and fewer people remained in the team. Strangely, that little fat man was still standing beside Bai-Yu, like a dog skin plaster. This guy won't be in the same class as himself, will he? Bai-Yu muttered to himself. The recruits had already been assigned. In the huge team of more than 200 people, only Bai-Yu and Fatty were left. Bai-Yu, Pang Da, you two come with me. In the end, it was the squad leader who had led them all the way from the Armed Forces Department to lead them away. When leaving, the monitor's mouth was twitching. These two guys are really in his class. Helpless to helpless, since the organization assigned them to his own class, the class leader could only admit it, but he was thinking about how to deal with these two guys. Pang Da was easy to deal with. This little fat man seemed timid, and he could easily be subdued even when he was frightened and punished. It's not easy for Bai-Yu. From the lap before lunch, it can be seen that this guy's physical fitness is ridiculously good. Although the squad leader is the vanguard of the company, it is still difficult for him to run 4 kilometers without blushing or panting, without slowing down. We have to find a way to get him back. Such a guy, if he refuses to accept you from the bottom of his heart, it is useless even if you beat him to death. Headache. Soon, the three of them arrived at the dormitory. There was a sign hanging at the door, one row after another. Open the door, there are already several people inside, lying on the bed at the moment, tossing the quilt vigorously. They are trying every means to turn the quilt in their hands into tofu cubes. It's a pity that the skill of folding quilts can't be accomplished overnight. If you want to fold the quilts like a monitor, you have to practice. Stand up. Seeing the squad leader come in, someone yelled, and everyone immediately put down the things in their hands and stood up straight. The squad leader nodded in satisfaction. These guys are already looking like soldiers. Although they were not trained by themselves, the rest of the time belongs to them. Bai-Yu curled his lips in disdain, but he didn't say anything. Soon, Bai-Yu and little fat Pang Da joined the ranks of tossing the quilt. Bai-Yu couldn't figure it out. How could this soft quilt be folded into sharp tofu cubes? Bai-Yu even suspected that the squad leader had tampered with the quilt so that his quilt could be folded like that. Bai-Yu is definitely not the only one who has this idea. But others just thought about it. Only Bai-Yu quietly touched the monitor's bedside, and stretched out his hand to the monitor's quilt. I'd like to see what's stuffed inside you. Just as Bai-Yu stretched his hand towards the squad leader's quilt, the squad leader who turned his back to him suddenly turned around as if he had eyes behind his back. What are you doing? The monitor's reaction startled Bai-Yu. However, it was already like this anyway. Bai-Yu broke his heart and tore the squad leader's quilt away. The squad leader's quilt was a bit hard, but it still felt like cotton wool, and there was nothing else inside. Strangeness. Bai-Yu rubbed the back of his head. Why are you pulling my quilt? The monitor looked at Bai-Yu speechlessly. I want to see how the squad leader's quilt is folded, so I can learn it. Bai-Yu said. But how could he hide his small thoughts from the monitor? Want to learn? Bai-Yu nodded. Come on, get ready for push-ups. Well, learning can be learned, but you can't learn standing up. Bai-Yu didn't care about it, and immediately lay down. Let's start. Since you want to learn, then I will teach you well. I will try to slow down the movement as much as possible. Look carefully. I won't stop, so don't you either. After finishing speaking, the monitor began to tidy the quilt slowly, and Bai-Yu started to do push-ups. The squad leader folded the quilt very slowly, and sometimes he even sat down to rest for a while as if he was tired. Bai-Yu has been doing push-ups non-stop. 50, 100, 200. The squad leader usually only takes a few minutes to make the quilt, but this time he dragged on for more than half an hour. The purpose is to let the ignorant kid in front of him remember for a long time. He used this trick a lot when he was leading recruits before. Generally speaking, the recruits can't stand it and start begging for mercy. But Bai Yu is different. For half an hour, he didn't even slow down the frequency, and every movement was as standard as the beginning. In half an hour, Bai Yu has done more than 400 push-ups. The squad leader has dragged on for long enough, and if he drags on any longer, he himself will feel a little embarrassed. But looking at Bai Yu's appearance, I'm afraid it will be no problem to do it for another half an hour. The squad leader didn't procrastinate at all, and folded the quilt into tofu cubes. How have you learned it? After the squad leader folded the quilt, he asked Bai Yu to get up. Learned. Bai Yu said that he has learned, not just talking, he really read and studied seriously. After getting up, Bai Yu started to tidy up his quilt. There is also a knack for folding the quilt, starting from the first step of laying the quilt flat. Bai Yu found that the reason why other people fold poorly is because they did not pay attention to it at the beginning. In the end, although Bai Yu's quilt was not as good looking as the squad leader's, it at least had a decent shape. Now, all the recruits in the class are impressed by Bai Yu, not only because he can fold the quilt out of shape in such a short time, but more importantly, his non-stop push-ups for half an hour. Brother, you are a real cow. The little fat man who was relatively familiar with Bai Yu quietly approached Bai Yu and said this. Bai Yu nodded at him proudly. The first day of the training base passed like this. Early the next morning, Bai Yu was woken up by the sound of getting up trumpets. When it comes to the work and rest schedule of the army, Bai Yu is quite used to it. This summer vacation he has been diligent in level training, and he gets up at around 6 o'clock every morning. But he can adapt, others may not. Especially the little fat man. Such a loud wake-up call seemed like nothing to him. After Bai Yu finished dressing, he was still snoring. Wake up! Bai Yu kicked the little fat man angrily. Ah, what's wrong? Is there an earthquake? Bai Yu's kick was not light, and he kicked the little fat man to the ground. Fortunately, the little fatty slept on the lower bunk, otherwise something would happen. Hurry up and get dressed, assemble. Bai Yu kicked the little fat man again, telling him to get dressed quickly. After the assembly, it is naturally morning exercises. The recruits' training is usually based on physical fitness and cues. Morning exercises for 3 kilometers are considered warm-ups. For Bai Yu, 3 kilometers is not even enough to warm up. But for the little fat man, half his life would be lost if he traveled 3 kilometers. Bai Yu, this is really not a place for people to stay, let's run. During breakfast, the little fat man whispered to Bai Yu. HMPH, run, with me here, try running. The little fat man obviously found the wrong person. Bai Yu is not a person who will be a deserter. Besides, he still wanted to find out why Yin Tianyu threw him here. From now on, Bai Yu has another task to keep an eye on the little fat man. However, Bai Yu's worries are superfluous. He has seen the little fat man in the Gobi Desert outside the base, and he doesn't have the courage to escape alone, otherwise he wouldn't have encouraged Bai Yu. The content of the training camp is very boring. Cue during the day, theory at night, and occasionally practice physical fitness. Bai Yu's performance exceeded the monitor's expectations. He was always worried that Bai Yu would disobey his discipline. As a result, this kid not only practiced well by himself, but also brought the recruits in the class to practice together, saving the class leader a lot of worry. The squad leader now looks at Bai Yu and likes it more and more. Cue action is actually not difficult. As long as you have good physical coordination and a certain physical foundation, it is easy to do well. The real difficulty is that the movements of the whole class can be uniform and consistent. In a blink of an eye, it has been almost a week since Bai Yu came to the training base, and he finally ushered in the first weekend of the training base. The weekends of the army are said to be free activities, but it is impossible to really let you be free, but you don't need to train. And during the training camp, that's even more impossible. Entertainment activities in the barracks are limited, and sports such as basketball and football have become their favorite. This weekend, the company commanders of the 2 companies in a row combined to complete a basketball game. Although it is an entertainment activity, the recruits are all young people, so it is inevitable that they will be competitive. Therefore, from top to bottom, the two companies still attach great importance to this competition. Naturally, it was impossible for Bai Yu to avoid this kind of physical confrontation. After training for a week, I got to know Bai Yu almost throughout the whole company. His abnormally strong physical ability has made him a hot figure in a row. Bai Yu actually knows how to play basketball, but his skills are mediocre, and he didn't refuse to let him play now. Before his awakening, he still liked the sport, but after awakening, he went to the third middle school, and was isolated because he didn't have the awakening skills. He didn't take part in this kind of group activities. Later, I got the awakening skills, and I was busy with leveling. For more than a year, I hardly touched basketball. On Sunday, all the officers and soldiers of the first and second companies gathered in the playground to cheer for their companies. Pull songs, sing duets, howl at the top of your voice. Soldiers don't care much about the rhythm when singing, as long as the voice is loud enough, so the basketball game has not started yet, and the court is already fighting. The number of people on both sides is about the same, and the voice is no one loses. Every recruit tried his best, wanting to yell out his throat. Because they know that if they don't work hard at this time, the squad leader will ask them to make up for it after they go back. Amid bursts of loud military songs, the game began. The players from both sides entered the arena, and the cheers of Orleans suddenly exploded. Naturally, there was a reason for Orleans' cheers. After the players from both sides entered the field, a big man of Orleans attracted the attention of the audience. Yilian's height is relatively average, basically between 175 and 180, but Orleans' tall man who is close to 2 meters tall seems to stand out from the crowd. This person is not only tall, but also has a strong body. In a basketball game, this figure can be said to have an advantage. His height is more than a head taller, and if he lifts the ball up, even those who don't bounce well may not be able to reach it. This is why Orleans is excited. Even before the game started, they felt like they had already won half the battle. With the whistle of the referee, the game began. At the beginning, the two sides played relatively conservatively, with little physical confrontation, both offensive and defensive, advancing and retreating. But as the game progressed, the confrontation on the field suddenly became fierce. Yilian is not outstanding in height, but he has a good head. After hitting a few consecutive goals, he opened up the point difference. Of course, Orleans was not happy, so he took advantage of the big man's height and frequently attacked the inside line. Naturally, physical confrontation is indispensable for an inside offense. His huge physique directly overturned a series of defensive players, which became the fuse for the intensity of the game to rise to a higher level. Although the soldiers of the company did not have an advantage in terms of physique, they did not admit defeat, nor were they afraid of physical confrontation. It became difficult for the big man to attack, and he became a little impatient. When he caught the ball again and was about to play back, he found that the person behind him had changed. And this person doesn't look very strong, but he can't squeeze it with all his strength. It's really evil. The person who can make this big man who is nearly 2 meters tall can't be squeezed is undoubtedly Bai Yu. When Bai Yu stood there, it was as if roots had taken root under his feet. No matter how the big man tried his best, he couldn't make Bai Yu take half a step back. The big guy is also a grumpy guy. After realizing that he couldn't squeeze Bai Yu, he immediately felt very humiliated. So, he lowered his shoulders and raised his elbows, turned around sharply, and made a shooting motion. But the elbow slammed towards Bai Yu's head. When Bai Yu was defending, he was already half squatting, and this move of his just hit Bai Yu's temple. Bai Yu didn't expect the other party to do such a move at all, so he took a solid elbow. This downward movement was heavy. Even though Bai Yu was physically strong, his eyes were blacked out, he staggered back, and finally sat on the ground with his buttocks. Bai Yu, are you okay? What's wrong? Bai Yu. Before the teammates who were concentrating on the game could figure out what was going on, they saw Bai Yu fell to the ground and immediately surrounded him. I'm #at, are you guys playing ball or people? But off the court, a company of soldiers who witnessed the whole process were not happy. Such a blatant injury on the field, is this when they have no one in a row? A few impulsive little fighters are going to fight with Maza. Although the monitors of Lian also despise the opponent's behavior, they couldn't let this match develop into a fight, although they also wanted to go up and deal with that kid. The soldiers were stopped, but many of the mineral water bottles in their hands flew out. Compared to Yilian's righteous indignation, Erlian couldn't hold his head up. The big man's actions were obviously lacking in competitive spirit, and he actually played tricks. They also felt that their faces were dull, so naturally it was impossible to help him get ahead. How about Baiyu? After the order in the auditorium was maintained, the anxious squad leader had time to run into the stadium to check on Baiyu's situation. I'm fine. After a short period of dizziness, Baiyu had recovered. The innate skill of the healing department is not covered, this little problem completely withstood. Baiyu shook his head and stood up. Since entering the new training base, Baiyu has kept to himself and never caused trouble, but this does not mean that he has changed his gender. Some people are bullying to the top. If he can bear it, then he is not Baiyu. However, if he has no quality like the opponent and directly plays tricks in the game, then what is the difference between him and the opponent? This is not Baiyu's style. Since you're angry at me because you can't match up in the game, what if you get blown up? Baiyu didn't make any effort in the first half, mainly because he hasn't played for a long time and he is not familiar with it. Now after such a long period of running in, the next step is his time to perform. Baiyu stood up, patted the dirt off his body, and signaled that he was fine. However, his eyes have changed. The way he looked at the big man was like a beast that would choose to eat someone. Since you want to awaken the sleeping beast in my heart, let me show you how cruel it is. Baiyu is fine and the game continues. Baiyu, who had been keeping a low profile in the first half, took the initiative to ask for the ball this time. The teammates also cooperated very well. Knowing that Baiyu suffered a loss just now, he must have a stomach full of anger to vent, so he passed the ball to him without thinking. Baiyu took the ball and patted it twice, the touch was just right. Then, when the opponent's defender stepped forward, Baiyu suddenly started before his footsteps stabilized. No one knows how fast Baiyu is. Anyway, the opponent's defenders hadn't reacted yet, they just felt a black shadow flash in front of them, and they were gone. And his body is still continuing the previous movements, lowering the center of gravity and preparing to defend. The result is to prevent a loneliness. Baiyu passed the player defending him and went straight to the inside. The big man smiled slightly when he saw Baiyu rushing over with the ball. Hehe, if you shoot three-pointers or mid-range shots, as long as you shoot quickly, maybe I really can't do anything about you. But if you are a small man and rush to the inside line, isn't that humiliating yourself? The big man spreads his arms and makes a defensive move. If Baiyu wants to lay up in front of him, he has to take off. As long as Baiyu jumps up, the difference in height between the two will allow the big man enough time to react, and it is almost inevitable that Baiyu will eat his hat. Boy, you'd better pass the ball, otherwise, I'll let you know what pain is. The big man muttered softly. But Baiyu didn't seem to see anyone in front of him, and rushed towards the big man. What is he going to do? Don't be impulsive. Off the field, many people were sweating for Baiyu. They all thought that after Baiyu was black-handed by the big man, he became anxious and wanted to take revenge with foul moves. The big man's movements were subtle just now. If you don't pay attention, you won't notice it at all. Although the referee called him a foul, there was no evidence that he did it on purpose. And Baiyu now seems to be making it clear that he is rushing towards someone. If the foul is really malicious, he will not only be sent off, but may also be punished. Is Baiyu such an impulsive person? Of course not. Under everyone's gaze, Baiyu rushed in front of the big man with the ball, and took off. Court death. Seeing that Baiyu really dared to jump in front of him, the big man immediately smiled. This time, even if he didn't foul, he could still make Baiyu understand that this kind of sport belongs to big men. The moment Baiyu left the ground, the big man also jumped up, raising his big hands high. His eyes are fixed on the basketball in Baiyu's hand. As long as Baiyu dares to make a shot, what awaits him is a big cap. But the big man waited for a long time, until his body had already started to fall, but Baiyu did not make a move for a long time, and what was even more outrageous was that Baiyu's body was still rising. What is he going to do? Slam dunk. An ominous premonition rose in the big man's heart. Cheating, right, He's less than 1.8 meters tall, dunking. The big guy tried to tell himself it wasn't true. Boom! The falling body of the big man collided with Bai Yu. The big man felt as if he was hit by a running bison, and his body fell backwards involuntarily. But Bai Yu's body didn't seem to be hindered, it was still rising. Bang! Boom! Two different voices in succession. One is the sound of Bai Yu smashing the basketball into the hoop. And the other one was the sound of a big man falling to the ground. Roar! The sky-shattering roar came out. The soldiers in a company were so excited. No words can express the excitement in my heart. It is very satisfying for Bai Yu to avenge his revenge with his own strength. But in such an ordinary basketball game, he actually saw a dunk. And it's not the kind of dunk that barely puts the ball in and then pretends to pull the rim. It's a real slam dunk, tomahawk style. After Bai Yu completed the dunk, he grabbed the basket with one hand and looked down at the big man with contempt in his eyes. That feeling is like a god looking down on all living beings. Bai Yu is now a soldier, no longer the ignorant boy who didn't know the heights of the sky and the earth, and started fighting with others when he disagreed with him. Therefore, he did not take violent ways to retaliate against the other party. He does it in a different, legitimate and passionate way. At this moment, everyone is cheering for Bai Yu. Bai Yu let go, and his body fell down. The big man shrank his body back subconsciously. He is scared. The dunk is exciting, but for the game, it's just a two-pointer. It's just that this two-pointer hit the opponent's morale a bit too much. The game was still going on, and after the opponent resumed the serve, they started a listless attack, and they hadn't recovered from Bai Yu's wonderful dunk. However, snapped. There was a soft sound. Before the opponent's defender saw something flashing in front of him, he realized that the ball was gone when he lightened his hand. Bang bang bang. Then I heard a rush of dribbling. When he turned around to look, he saw Bai Yu rushing towards their backcourt together. Bang. Once again, Bai Yu's fast break alone, after rushing to the basket, jumped high. A wonderful back button ignited the emotions of the audience again. This is a game. No, it's now a slam dunk contest. However, only Bai Yu participated in the competition. The next match almost turned into an exhibition match for Bai Yu alone. When Bai Yu is attacking, basically no one is defending him. At most, when he passes by, he just stretches out his hand symbolically. Even after Bai Yu completed the dunk, the opponent's players applauded along with him. And Bai Yu also completely let go. His physical strength exploded, and he dunked in various fancy ways, which made everyone's eyes addicted. An unpleasant game ended so happily, the score is not important anymore. Now Bai Yu has completely become a celebrity in the new training base. Those who know him or not have heard of Bai Yu's name. After a week of intensive training, Bai Yu has also adapted to his status as a recruit. But at the beginning of a new week, Yin Tianyu suddenly appeared in front of him. How do you feel? In the regiment headquarters, in an empty office, Yin Tianyu walked in with Bai Yu. Good, Bai Yu said. But what's the point of your doing that? Throw me into an ordinary barracks, just to let me feel the atmosphere of the army. Bai Yu asked Yin Tianyu. Roughly the same. After all, you are representing your country in the competition. If you don't even have a trace of a soldier on your body, it will be a joke. In addition, the new training at the National Defense University has ended as early as the summer vacation, and your seniors are busy upgrading and preparing for the war, so they don't have time to teach you. It just happened to catch up with the annual recruiting of ordinary troops, so I asked you to come and train together. It's almost the same now, and the time for the game is not far away. It's time to go and prepare. Yin Tianyu said. Just leave like this. The base. Bai Yu wanted to ask what to do if the base didn't want to release people. Hee, how dare they refuse to give the person I want? Yin Tianyu pointed to the major general rank on his shoulder. Don't say that he is a major general, even if he is not, he needs someone, and this side has to cooperate. Although Yin Tianyu has come out of Longwei to serve as an instructor at the National Defense University, but his establishment is still in Longwei, and Longwei is an important person, who dare not give it. Oh, only then did Bai Yu know how high the status of Longwei is in China. Give me some time and say goodbye to them. Although we only got along for a week, we ate, lived and trained together every day, and we still developed a relationship with each other. Go. Yin Tianyu is also a soldier. He understands the feelings between comrades in arms. Although Bai Yu's feelings are still in their infancy, they are very precious. During the lunch break at noon, no one in the dormitory was sleeping. Everyone sat around Bai Yu, and a feeling of reluctance pervaded. Ahem, that, Bai Yu, from the first day at the base, the squad leader saw that you are not an ordinary person. Now that you are leaving, I plan to teach you something at the end. It can be regarded as a parting gift. After a long silence, the squad leader spoke. Ah, what do you want to teach me, Monitor? Bai Yu said in surprise. You come with me. Let the recruits stay in the dormitory. The squad leader took Bai Yu out. Bai Yu followed behind the squad leader and went directly to the roof platform. The fire of gossip was burning in the hearts of the recruits, thinking that the squad leader still has a unique skill hidden. So, after they left, they all quietly followed. When they followed the squad leader to the top of the building, they found that the door was closed. They pushed it gently, but found that it couldn't be pushed open, and they didn't dare to push it hard to go in. They had to quietly sit behind the door with their ears tightly closed. Stick it on the door, hope to hear some tips. However, they couldn't hear the conversation inside at all. After a while, there was a sound of ah, bang, bang. It was very intense. Not long after, Bai Yu came out with a bruised nose and a swollen face. What happened? Didn't you teach unique skills? Why did you still get beaten? As soon as he went out, Pang Da greeted him. The unique skill taught by the squad leader is fighting. Bai Yu rubbed his bruised eye sockets, and muttered. Everyone, I'm leaving, don't miss me too much, the class leader has to think about life, everyone will go to him later. After speaking, Bai Yu slipped away. The big guy waited outside the door, and the squad leader didn't come out after a long time, so he boldly opened the door and walked out. In the end, what surprised them was that the squad leader looked even worse than Bai Yu, lying on the ground and unable to move. You brat, you're too ruthless. I am a veteran of a talented martial artist, but I can't beat him. Although the squad leader gritted his teeth when he spoke, he could see relief in his eyes. Although it was only a short battle, he discovered that Bai Yu's learning talent was astonishingly strong. From being passively beaten at the beginning to stealing his moves to counterattack, it only took less than 10 minutes. Horrible. Bai Yu left, and he had nothing to pack. As soon as he mentioned the camouflage bag, he followed Yin Tianyu away. National Defense University. Bebe, let's compete again, this time to see which team comes out first. In front of the Luli Pagoda, the exclusive leveling area of the National Defense University, the two teams stood together. A boy said to a girl from the other team, Xiao Qian, are you bullying people? We know that our team is short of one person. Lu Beibei hasn't spoken yet, her best friend Zhang Feifei is not happy. Their two teams are the selected players, forming two teams of 10. After the 30th level, the team of 5 is no longer the combination with the most experience, because after reaching the prefecture level, the strength of the beast is also stronger, and more people are needed to form a team to kill, so the team of 10 is the most experienced combination. Optimized, the most efficient upgrade combination. However, because a place was reserved for Bai Yu, they now only have 19 people. If they are divided into two teams, one team will have one less person. Hey, let's compare casually, to increase everyone's enthusiasm, and don't bet. Xiao Qian said. Bye, if your 10-man team loses to our 9-man team, I'll see where you put your old face. Compared with the quiet Lu Beibei, Zhang Feifei is slightly more aggressive. Then let's go. After finishing speaking, Xiao Qian led the team into the glazed tower. The glazed pagoda is not a real pagoda, but the same as the mirrored space used for the college entrance examination. However, the level of the glazed tower is higher, and there are layers. There are 4 floors inside the glazed pagoda. The first floor is the training area for levels 20 to 29, the second floor is the training area for levels 30 to 39, the third floor is the training area for levels 40 to 49, and the last floor is level 50 to 59. However, the 4th level is basically not used. During the university period, very few can be upgraded to level 50. Mirrored spaces like the glazed tower can be found in every combat university in the country, but they are called differently. Xiao Qian and the others entered the third floor of level 40 to 49, but not all of their levels are above level 40. Chapter 51. In Xiao Qian's team, he was the only one who reached level 40. There is no level limit for entering the mirror space, as long as you are not afraid of death and think you can beat it. Level 40 mobs don't pose too much pressure on awakeners who are over 30 levels. But in the mirror space, there are not just little monsters. When facing a leader level monster, it is impossible to withstand it without someone of the same level as it. In Liu Beibei's team, there is also only Liu Beibei who is level 40, and they also entered the mirror space of level 40 to 49. Listening to their conversation, it is obvious that they have passed through this mirror space more than once. An hour later, Xiao Qian's team was the first to retreat from the mirror space. However, they look a little embarrassed. Especially Xiao Qian, with a handsome face. There are still several claw marks, from the forehead to the corner of the mouth. The whole face is about to be scratched to pieces. But he didn't care. After he came out, he glanced to the side. As expected, without one person, it is impossible for Liu Beibei and the others to be faster than themselves. Jin Ming, give me a cure, it still hurts. Xiao Qian greeted the healers in his team to heal himself. The two teams of them, the team led by Xiao Qian, are going to go abroad to challenge, so the school's treatment is given priority to them. Jin Ming is a healer of the light system. He walked up to Xiao Qian, raised his palm, held a ball of light, and pressed it on Xiao Qian's face. After the ball of light touched Xiao Qian's face, it merged into it. Afterwards, the wound on Xiao Qian's face began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, after the wound shrank by 1/3, the healing effect of the ball of light at the limit, the wound stopped healing. This is the difference between Baiyu and other healing departments. Baiyu's healing skill will judge the injury, and directly draw the spiritual power at one time, and heal it directly. Jin Ming's healing skill is a fixed healing amount. After casting 2 healing light spheres again, the wound on Xiao Qian's face disappeared, and he regained his handsomeness. However, his face also became a little pale because of this. The treatment of the light system, in addition to requiring the healer to pay spiritual power, will also draw the life force of the healed person to speed up the recovery of the injury. Xiao Qian's current appearance is caused by overdrawing part of his vitality. About 10 minutes later, the space gate of the glazed pagoda fluctuated again, and Liu Beibei and his party of 9 came out of the space gate. Ah, I'm so annoying. Who is our last team member? Didn't Instructor Yin say that he went to pick up people? Why haven't you come back? It's really hard to lose one person. As soon as she left the space door, Zhang Feifei started to complain. This trip, they fought harder. There is only one person missing, and there is no treatment yet. Before fighting the leader, they must rest in advance, and dare to do it after recovering. In this way, a little more time is wasted. Don't worry, Instructor Yin said it's only 2 days. Liu Beibei comforted her girlfriend softly. Behind them, several buddies were wounded, worse than Xiao Qian. Xiao Qian is at level 40 anyway, so if he fights against the leader, he won't be suppressed by his level. And these buddies are miserable. Although Liu Beibei in their team is already level 40, she is not close combat type, so it is impossible for her to fight against monsters. Therefore, I can only sacrifice a few of them to buy her some time. It was precisely because of Liu Beibei's strong output ability that even if she took a break in front of the 3 leaders, the time spent in the end was only 10 minutes longer than that of Xiao Qian and the others. Of course, if Xiao Qian didn't focus on fighting monsters, but switched to output, the time would be shorter. It's just that in that case, more people in their team will be injured. No need to say hello, Jin Ming naturally stepped forward to treat the injured buddies. Tisk tisk, Tiangong's lethality is indeed strong. In comparison, my underworld is not as good. Outside the glazed pagoda, Xiao Qian approached Liu Beibei and said, "Your lethality is indeed weaker, but your life-saving ability is stronger, so you will lead the team when you go abroad this time." Liu Beibei smiled sweetly. Xiao Qian was still waiting to say more, but the phone rang. After he got through, he said a few words and then hung up. "Everyone, our last member has arrived, let's go and have a look together." After hanging up the phone, Xiao Qian greeted everyone. "As the last person here, let my sister see who the hell is," Zhang Feifei said with an unhappy face. They used to have fixed 10-member teams, but this time they were drawn out separately for the competition and reorganized into 2 teams. As a result, their team had 1 less member, which was very uncomfortable. A group of people followed Xiao Qian and walked towards the school gate. I originally thought that the one Yin Tianyu took a lot of trouble to find must be an outstanding student from other universities, perhaps even higher in grade than Liu Beibei and Xiao Qian. As a result, when he arrived at the school gate, he saw Yin Tianyu leading a boy wearing a recruit's uniform and carrying a camouflage bag. Judging by his age, he might not even be 18 years old. High school student, recruit. A group of people looked at each other in blank dismay. He's so big, is he level 20? Someone asked a crucial question. The difference in level is not only reflected in the suppression of the level, but also in the attributes improved by upgrading, the proficiency of awakening skills, etc. Xiao Qian can easily deal with a guy who is less than level 20 with one hand. Is it really good to let such a guy enter the roster? Instructor, is this your relative? Zhang Feifei was outspoken and couldn't help asking. Nonsense. Yin Tianyu glared at Zhang Feifei. Zhang Feifei stuck out her tongue playfully, and then hid behind Liu Beibei. Yin Tianyu is notoriously strict in his treatment of students, that is to say, they are top-notch guys who are especially liked by the teacher, so they dare to be presumptuous in front of Yin Tianyu once in a while. Come here, let me introduce you. After Yin Tianyu spoke, they stopped being suspicious and surrounded him. Who is this person? After the introduction, they will know. As for whether they are qualified to be a member of the participating team, that is not their concern. Yin Tianyu is not a person who will show favoritism, and Zhang Feifei is just making a joke. If he didn't have enough ability, even his own son wouldn't be able to be included in the team representing the country. Bai Yu, a third-year student in Wucheng No. 3 Middle School, Department of Healing. The introduction of Bai Yu of Team Yin Tianyu is very simple, but the last 3 words are the key. Healing Department. This profession does not need to directly participate in the battle. If his awakening skills are easy to use, a low level is acceptable. His current level is only level 18, which is a bit far away from everyone, but there is still some time before the competition. Let's take advantage of these few days to upgrade him and strive to reach level 20 before the start of the competition. In this way, the effect will be greater. Also, his healing skills are different from other treatments, don't underestimate him. Bai Yu discovered that after returning to the National Defense University, Yin Tianyu seemed to be very imposing after showing his role as a teacher. Hey, I'm still a little fresh meat, my brother looks very tender, come on, call me sister, I will protect you from now on. Without restraint, Zhang Feifei walked up to Bai Yu and hugged his arm. It was the first time to be hugged by a strange girl like this. Bai Yu couldn't take it anymore, and twisted his body uncomfortably. As a result, he forgot that something was surrounding his arms. Yo, brother is dishonest, he actually eats sister's tofu. Although she said so, Zhang Feifei didn't intend to let go at all, but hugged her even tighter. Sister, don't be like this, I'm still young. Bai Yu had no choice but to call her sister. Oh, that's a sweet mouth. Remember, my sister's name is Zhang Feifei. From now on, if someone dares to bully you in this National Defense University, you can report your sister's name. From Zhang Feifei's tone, it can be heard that in this National Defense University, she probably belongs to the type that no one would dare to mess with. Good sister. Bai Yu had no choice but to nod his head. Okay, Feifei, don't bully him, since Instructor Yin told us to take him to upgrade, then hurry up. How about this? Jin Ming's level will definitely not reach 40 for the time being, let's take turns to upgrade him with the 2 teams. The injured are treated outside by Jin Ming, and the others continue to upgrade Bai Yu, taking turns, trying to bring him to level 20 in the shortest possible time. With the 3rd awakening skill, his strength will increase again. It's just that brother Bai Yu is about to suffer a bit. The healing in the mirror space can only depend on you. I hope your spiritual power can withstand it. In a short period of time, Xiao Qian made arrangements. Obviously, Xiao Qian intends to take Bai Yu to level 40 to 49 mirror space upgrade. Although it is said that if there are too many levels, the experience will be discounted, but after enough levels, even after the discount, the experience value is much higher than that of killing beasts of the same level. Moreover, they brought Bai Yu to upgrade, but it's not that simple. Well, about the upgrade, wait a moment, Bai Yu, come with me first, I have something for you. Yin Tianyu thought for a while and said, good. Bai Yu nodded. Bai Yu followed Yin Tianyu and Xiao Qian led the two teams to the Luli Pagoda to wait for Bai Yu. They knew that Bai Yu would not stay with Yin Tianyu for long, and they also knew why Yin Tianyu took Bai Yu there. For students of the National Defense University, wristwatches are standard equipment. Although Bai Yu is not a student of the National Defense University, since he is here, he still has the treatment he deserves. Sure enough, Bai Yu followed Yin Tianyu to the Academic Affairs office directly. Lao Li, help this kid register. Lao Li and Yin Tianyu from the Academic Affairs office were quite familiar with each other. Hearing this, he looked at Bai Yu. Freshman. At this time, it is not the time for the freshman to report. Could it be that something has delayed him, and he is afraid that he will come and be scolded, so he asks Yin Tianyu to bring him here. But Yin Tianyu's temper is much more irritable than him. It's not a freshman, it's still a high school student, but it's a member of the hunter contest, help him get a watch. Yin Tianyu said, high school students, team members. Lao Li was a little confused for a while, he couldn't connect these two words at all. However, he is not responsible for this, Yin Tianyu is in charge of the hunter competition, since he said yes, then it is. He just needs to do his job well. Soon, Bai Yu's information was entered into the system, and a new watch was also handed over to Bai Yu. Bai Yu is still very interested in this kind of novelty, and he has long been envious of Yan Yan's wristwatch. Unfortunately, he has no money to buy it himself. Now you can get it for free. The National Defense University is truly generous. This watch alone may cost tens of thousands of yuan. Bai Yu put the watch on his hand, entered his information, and after a few operations, he couldn't put it down. However, now is not the time to play this for him, a group of people are still waiting for him. After receiving the watch, Yin Tianyu took Bai Yu to the Luli Pagoda. When they arrived here, the two teams had already been assigned. In the first round, Xiao Chen's team led Bai Yu to upgrade first. After all, they came out earlier than Liu Beibei's team, and there were fewer injuries. Xiao Qian has also recovered at this time, and there is no problem at all for another round. As for the seriously injured buddies in Liu Beibei's team, although their injuries have healed, they are still a little sluggish because of overdrawn vitality. Come on, add a friend first, and then join the team. Xiao Qian held out his watch to Bai Yu. Good. Bai Yu operated the watch unfamiliarly, and added friends with Xiao Qian and the others one by one. And the first time they added friends, almost everyone started to check Bai Yu's profile by coincidence. Name: Bai Yu. Grade: 18. Attribute: Healing. Others: before Bai Yu took the initiative to open it, others have no permission to view it. Otherwise, once his dual talent is exposed, it may cause an uproar. But even so, it still caused a burst of surprise. Bai Yu, why is your attribute healing? Zhang Feifei couldn't hide something in her heart, so she spoke first. I'm a healer, what's the problem? Bai Yu was puzzled. When Yin Tianyu introduced him, he said it was treatment. No, that's not the case. Look, Zhang Feifei really didn't know how to explain to Bai Yu, so she could only use her watch to call up Jin Ming's information interface. Name: Jin Ming. Grade: 39. Attribute: Light. See it. Jin Ming is also a healer, but his attribute is light. It's the same with other treatments, either they are light attributes, or water or wood attributes. No one has ever been of the healing attribute. We are used to calling them healing because their ability is healing. In fact, they should be called light healing or water healing, and you are directly healing. Why? Bai Yu himself didn't know why. This might have something to do with his data being in the experimental area, but who would believe this thing? I do not know either. Therefore, Bai Yu can only answer in this way. What about your healing skills? What's the difference? Since I don't know why he was marked as a healing department, let's take a look at his awakening skills. My first awakening skill is called Magic Hand Rejuvenation, which is used to heal the target's injuries. Bai Yu replied. What about the amount of treatment? Jin Ming asked. This is the most concerned as a treatment. What amount of healing? Bai Yu was puzzled. It's just to use an awakening skill, To what extent can the injury be recovered? Jin Ming asked. Cure it directly. Do you need to divide it several times? Bai Yu himself has never been in contact with other treatments, so he doesn't know what the skill descriptions of other treatments look like. Cure it directly. What about the consumption of spiritual power? Jin Ming asked. Spiritual power consumption. This is complicated. It should be consumed according to the target's injury. If the target's injury exceeds the range of my spiritual power, I will suffer backlash. Bai Yu glanced at Yin Tianyu. This matter is still fresh in his memory. At the beginning, Yin Tianyu was treated for his wounds, not to mention that the wounds were not cured, but he even vomited blood on himself. Consume spiritual power according to the injury. How strange. Jin Ming didn't say anything, just opened his profile panel, and showed his first awakening skill in front of Bai Yu. Light healing technique. Consume one's own spiritual power to heal the target's injuries. When the skill is cast, the fixed spiritual power will be deducted, and 100 units of healing will be completed on the target. Jin Ming's skill description has data. Although he didn't specify how much spiritual power will be deducted, as the skill controller, Jin Ming must have a bottom line, at least he knows how many times the skill can be used in a row with his own spiritual power. And the 100-unit healing amount is the same. Just look at Xiao Qian. When he came out of the mirror space, the scar on his face, which was deep and visible, was restored to its original state after 3 treatments with the light healing technique. Okay, you guys are slowly getting to know each other during this time, let's go upgrade first. By the way, you hold this thing, and when you use it, just activate it with your watch. After finishing speaking, Yin Tianyu handed Bai Yu a golden card. Double experience card. Instructor Yin, you were really willing. This time, even Xiao Qian, who was more stable, couldn't help being surprised. It's also thanks to his knowledge, otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to recognize this thing. For example, Bai Yu, he just took the card with a blank face, not knowing what it was at all. Double experience card. What is it? If you don't understand, just ask. Bai Yu has no psychological burden at all. This is a good thing. After activating it, bring it with you, and you can get double experience. However, this thing has a time limit. Remember to turn it off when you don't use it. Double experience card, that can't be bought with money, it can only be obtained by doing tasks. The ones who are eligible to issue missions must be organizations with sufficient strength to be eligible to establish contact with the mysterious system. This card should have been obtained by Instructor Yin when he was in Longwei. I didn't expect him to be willing to give it to you. By the way, are you two really relatives? Xiao Qian said. After many people get experience cards, they are reluctant to use them, let alone give them to others. No, Bai Yu shook his head. Don't talk so much nonsense, you are all in your senior year, after graduation, there are plenty of opportunities. Students of the National Defense University have only 2 choices after graduation, either enter Longwei or go to Zhanfang. However, so far, no one has been recruited by Zhanfang directly after graduation. Yin Tianyu glared at Xiao Qian. Longwei, he gets annoyed when he mentions this. He wants to go back, but how can he go back in his current state? Jian Feng, what is this? This time, even Xiao Qian didn't know what Jian Feng was, let alone the others. Well, Zhanfang, like Dragon Guard, is an army composed of combat type awakened, but Zhanfang is more mysterious than Dragon Guard. Have you ever heard a word? Dignity is only on the edge of the sword. The existence of Zhanfang is to defend the dignity of the country. If an enemy invades, he will never come back. From the advent of the mysterious system to the present, for nearly 100 years, the conflicts between countries have been escalating every day, and you can go to school here safely and upgrade, thanks to Zhanfang. However, Zhanfang hardly recruits directly from the school, and usually recruits from the Dragon Guard, and my injury was left at that time. Yin Tianyu's expression was gloomy, and after he finished speaking, he left without looking back, leaving only a sad figure behind. Well, Instructor Yin, he is also a poor man. Xiao Qian and the others all knew about Yin Tianyu's situation. And I also know that even a level 70 treatment can't do anything about his injuries. It's okay. Bai Yu shook his head. He is really convinced that after level 40, he can heal Yin Tianyu's injury, so he doesn't feel that there is anything pitiful. Because judging from the current situation, it doesn't seem like it will be too long before he reaches level 40. Bai Yu's reaction was beyond everyone's expectations. In their view, Yin Tianyu cared so much about Bai Yu, the relationship between the two must not be simple, and Bai Yu should also care about Yin Tianyu. But now it seems that Bai Yu doesn't seem to care about Yin Tianyu very much. Could it be? They thought of a terrible answer. Could it be that Bai Yu is Yin Tianyu's illegitimate son? Stop chatting, upgrade, upgrade. Xiao Qian quickly suppressed the crazy thought in his heart, and led the team into the mirror space. This is the first time for Bai Yu to enter the mirror space, and the feeling of losing direction when passing through the space door makes him very uncomfortable. Be careful. Xiao Qian was already familiar with the road, and he also knew the problems that might arise when entering the mirror space for the first time, so he grabbed Bai Yu immediately after entering. The glazed pagoda is not only layered on the outside, but also layered in the mirrored space. And the mobs on the first floor are very close to the entrance. If you run around after entering, it is easy to attract the attention of mobs. Others dispersed after entering. Although they are not very familiar with the mirror space of level 40 to 49, at least they have cleared the level several times under the leadership of Xiao Qian, and they are still very clear about what to pay attention to when entering here. After they dispersed, they began to be vigilant against mobs that might rush over at any time. This mirror space is an abandoned ancient battlefield, and the monsters in it are those dead soldiers. The mobs on the first floor are some skeleton soldiers. They crawl on the ground, and they look like a pile of rotten bones before someone approaches them. But anyone who has experienced this scene knows that these guys have no vision and fight entirely by perception. They are lying on the ground now, just to feel if there is any creature approaching. Get ready to fight. Bai Yu, you are the healer, stay back. Saying that, Xiao Qian took out a shield from his watch. Old rules, I resist, you output. The first awakening skill, Ghost. A dark black shadow rose from behind Xiao Qian, like a ghost coming out of the dark, attached to Xiao Qian's body. Everyone, let's go. With this ghost in his body, Xiao Qian's defensive power was greatly improved, and he rushed to the front with his shield in hand. Others also took out their weapons and followed. Boom! A skeleton soldier got up from the ground, brandished a rusty long knife in his hand, and slashed at it, but was blocked by Xiao Qian with a shield, and then kicked out, breaking his leg bones. The skeleton soldier, who lost a leg, could only jump around in place, but he couldn't get up at all. He swung the long knife in his hand, but all he cut was air. Skeleton soldiers have no blood bars, so to kill them, you have to tear them apart. The team led by Xiao Qian, because he has himself as a human shield, so most of the team are elemental, and they have already started to lose their skills. Ice armor, stone skin, add it to me. Although ghosts can improve Xiao Qian's body's ability to resist attacks, it still hurts when hit. He only has one pair of hands and one shield, so it's inevitable that he won't be able to take care of it when he rushes into the crowd of monsters. When the ice and earth elements in the team heard the command, they immediately released these two skills. Fire element, take it easy, don't beat me up too. It's really hard for Xiao Qian, he is the only one above level 40 in the team, this will be a father and a mother at the same time. The third awakening skill, fierce. Xiao Qian, who was surrounded by heavy siege, suddenly let out a roar, his body glowed red, he jumped up high, and hit the ground with his shield. The powerful shock wave spread, knocking all the skeleton soldiers around him into the air. The third awakening technique, Demon Ape Possession. A beast in the team, in the form of a demon ape, charged into the group of skeleton soldiers with a round stick in his hand, and smashed the group of bones into pieces. Pretty. With many times of cooperation, the performance of the beast department is the most perfect this time. In fact, in this first layer, the role of the element system is extremely limited. In the face of a group of skeleton sticks without flesh and blood, the side effects of many elemental skills will not work. Their biggest role is to use the impact released by the skills to help Xiao Qian control his fight and relieve his pressure. Humans at level 40 can completely crush level 40 mobs in a one-on-one fight, but surrounded by dozens of mobs, no matter how powerful Xiao Qian is, he can't be completely stress-free. As for their team, the real killing move at this level is the animalization system with strong physical attack power. Only he can smash this group of skeleton sticks and complete a quick kill. Keep this cooperation, we should be able to speed up a lot on the first floor this time. Xiao Qian said with a light smile as he stepped on the broken bones all over the floor. His left arm is still bleeding from a cut by the skeleton soldiers. Miracle rejuvenation. Bai Yu stepped forward, brushed his arm with his hand, his spiritual power surged, and Xiao Qian's injury immediately disappeared. At level 18, Bai Yu's skill effect is much stronger than before level 10, and the effect speed is also faster. Nice. This kind of injury can also be cured by Jinming with one skill, but after it is cured, Xiao Qian will feel a little weak. Although it has little effect on combat effectiveness, the feeling of powerlessness is still very uncomfortable. But after Bai Yu's healing skills healed his injuries, he didn't feel this way, he still felt energetic. What they don't know is that Bai Yu's healing skills rely on his own spiritual power to heal the injury, instead of using his own spiritual power as a guide to stimulate the healed person's own vitality to achieve the healing effect like the light system. Therefore, Bai Yu's own consumption will be relatively large, but the treated person will not feel any discomfort. It is also fortunate that Bai Yu has a second innate skill. The power of transformation will also increase his total spiritual power, otherwise, he might not be able to persist in opening up the mirror space. After the first wave of mobs were cleaned up, everyone started to move forward again. Repeat the previous action. Skeleton soldiers have low intelligence, and they won't die endlessly after spotting a target. After Xiao Qian lures the monster, others will not be attacked again, which is very easy. And Xiao Qian has all kinds of defensive skills added to his body, so he can withstand it. Fierce. Sun Wu, it's your turn. Magic Ape possessed. Another round of perfect fit. With their tacit cooperation, the speed of advancement was not slow. In just over 10 minutes, they had already reached the last moment of the first floor. Here, a general who died in battle is half kneeling next to a skeleton horse, maintaining the posture of his spear on the ground before his death. All troops, charge! Just when Bai Yu and the others stepped within 20 meters of the skeleton general, two groups of white flames suddenly lit up in the skeleton general's empty eyes. The body that was completely devoid of flesh and blood stood up, and the heavy armor on his body clanged loudly. He waved the spear in his hand, pointed in the direction of Bai Yu and the others, and let out a roar. It's a pity that all his guards turned into bones and died in the second battle. His orders are not followed. General Skeleton looked around, seemingly at a loss. Afterwards, his eyes fixed on Xiao Qian who was walking at the front of the team, and he got on his horse. Charge! Roaring again, the skeleton horse flew on all fours, charging towards Xiao Qian with an indomitable momentum. Hey, the second awakening skill, Ghost. Xiao Qian chuckled, and a white shadow flew out from behind him, crashing into Xiao Qian's body. Xiao Qian just stood there, facing skeleton general's charge without dodging or evading. Careful, this frightened Bai Yu. His healing is really awesome, but if he is killed, he won't be able to pull him back. Healing skills are not resurrection skills. Don't worry, you won't hit it. The other team members on the side obviously had experience, and signaled Bai Yu not to worry. Sure enough, when the skeleton general was about to bump into Xiao Qian, a hazy white light flashed on Xiao Qian's body, and the skeleton general passed through him. This almost shocked Bai Yu's jaw. Please forgive his shallow knowledge, he has never seen such a skill. This is Xiao Qian's second awakening skill, Ghost. Summon a ghost possessed, which can be immune to a physical attack. It is absolutely immune. This is really a perverted skill. If used well, it can definitely turn the tide of the battle. The moment the skeleton general passed through Xiao Qian's body, Xiao Qian used his third awakening skill again, Vicious. The red glow reappeared. Xiao Qian turned around and smashed his shield fiercely on the skull general's head. Knocked his helmet off. It's a pity that the skeleton is no longer a living body, and it is immune to the stun effect, otherwise, this blow would definitely knock him out. However, Xiao Qian didn't want to knock the skeleton general unconscious. What he wants is to pull General Skeleton off his horse. This kind of monster with the same experience as a general, the mount has a combat power bonus. This is what Xiao Qian discovered after clearing the level several times. As long as General Skeleton is dismounted, he will no longer be able to charge, and it is difficult for him to move, let alone fight. Do it, Xiao Qian gave an order. The team members who received the order launched their own effective attack methods one after another. And Sun Wu directly activated his fourth awakening skill. Here, the strongest killing move is still him. The fourth awakening skill, Wrath of the Demon Ape. Sun Wu, who had already turned on the demon ape's body, swelled in size again, raised the round stick, and smashed wildly at the skeleton general. At this time, Sun Wu appeared to be extremely violent, but in Bai Yu's eyes, he was in a state of rage. Because of Bai Yu's second awakening skill, he can see various states of other people. Whether it's a teammate or an enemy, he can remove it. After being knocked off his horse by Xiao Qian, General Skeleton struggled to get up, wanting to get on his horse again. But Sun Tzu didn't give him a chance at all, and threw him far away with a stick. And here, you can also see the difference between the leader-level monsters and ordinary mobs. If it was an ordinary mob, just one blow would be enough to crush it to pieces. But General Skeleton has nothing to do with it. After getting up, he flicked his spear and attacked Sun Wu. But without the horse, he moved slowly, and his impact force was greatly reduced. Before the spear had time to stab Sun Wu, he was covered by overwhelming skills. Frost, flames, and water waves were all thrown over in one go. There are even more wicked ones. The Earth-type Awakener in the team actually lost a slowing mud. The skeleton general, who was already immobile, couldn't move anymore. The warhorse was not far from him, but he just couldn't get there. And the skeleton warhorse obviously lost the spirituality it had when it was alive, and it didn't know how to take 2 steps towards the skeleton general. Thus, a battle called torture started like this. The skeleton general, whose combat strength had been greatly reduced, was not an opponent at all, and Xiao Qian was by his side, helping Sun Wu resist all the damage, allowing Sun Wu to attack freely. In less than 5 minutes, there were not many bones left in General Skeleton's body. Following Sun Wu's berserk stick that knocked General Skeleton's head away, all the monsters on the first floor were finally cleaned up, and the entrance to the second floor was also opened at this time. This is a portal. In other words, it is a time travel door. The mirror space is generated by the mysterious system, and it can set it however it wants. And behind this time travel door, there is still this battlefield. But the monster is no longer a skeleton soldier. This time it was replaced with a flesh and blood warrior, but unfortunately, he was still dead. The flesh and blood on their bodies had already begun to rot, but because of some mysterious power, they stood up again. They waved the rusty swords in their hands, and killed this group of enemies who didn't know where they came from. Roar, roar, they have lost consciousness, only the instinct to kill is left. The rotten vocal cords can only produce this simple syllable. With flesh and blood warriors, even if the flesh and blood have rotted, they are still more lethal than skeleton soldiers, and their movements are more flexible. Beware of corpse poison, Xiao Qian gave a warning. It's okay, I'm here. Bai Yu patted his chest and said. He can't cure level 70 poison, but he can still deal with level 40 poison. Of course, even though Bai Yu said he was there, the others didn't intend to rush into the soldiers to fight. After all, most of their squads were elemental. It was still Xiao Qian and Sun Wu who rushed to the battle. However, when we get here, the role of elemental systems becomes bigger. Firewall. The sky is full of ice and snow. Falling rock. After Xiao Qian and Sun Wu finished gathering monsters, the attacks of the elemental department also fell in time, and the killing moves of each department did not cost money. Can't you look at the one who threw the stone? Sun Wu was almost hit by falling rocks and couldn't help shouting. I'm aiming, it's very accurate, didn't it miss it? The soil system replied. I don't know if he really aimed at it, or if it happened to miss it. The elemental system starts to exert its strength, and the battle is like a shattered one. The advancing speed of the second floor is faster than that of the first floor, but it also consumes a lot of energy. Zombie soldiers are obviously stronger than skeleton soldiers without flesh and blood. Although they are not injured, Xiao Qian and Sun Wu who are in charge of close combat are also exhausted. But Bai Yu was not happy, no one was injured, so he couldn't transform his power. Soon, they reached the end of the second floor, where the general was. All troops, charge. It is still the same line. The zombie general rode forward in a majestic manner, waved his spear, and pointed at several people. This time, he was no longer alone and helpless. Beside him, there was a group of soldiers holding swords and shields, following behind the horses. Roar! Bang bang bang! The soldiers slapped the shield with their long knives, made a loud noise, and then rushed towards the crowd. The fourth awakening skill, Boulder Thrust. The earth element used his fourth awakening skill, and on the way the soldiers were charging, a stone pillar thicker than a human suddenly rose from the ground. Soldiers who were unlucky were directly sent flying, and the rest were also blocked from charging. Kill! Angrily, the zombie general waved his spear, smashed the stone pillars all the way, and led the soldiers to kill him. Fierce! Possessed by evil spirits, Xiaoqian charged forward with the shield in hand. The defensive skills of the elemental system immediately catch up, and Sun Wu is not far behind. His target is zombie soldiers. When they came to this leader, their division of labor was clear. Xiaoqian would deal with the leader first, and Sun Wu in the elemental department would deal with the mobs first. Bai Yu stood behind, watching all kinds of skills explode in the crowd of monsters, extremely dazzling. Sun Wu's offensive ability is strong, but he is weak in defense. Here, he is basically fighting to kill the mobs, and then heals him to recover. And Xiaoqian's main task is to hold back the zombie general. He doesn't need to fight head-on, he's pretty easy at it. The zombie soldiers here are slightly stronger than those encountered before, but with the concerted efforts of everyone, they didn't last long, and it turned into everyone's experience. The little monsters have been cleaned up, but Sun Wu's situation is a bit miserable. He was not good at defense, and he didn't have a shield armor, and his elemental defense skills were all given to Xiaoqian, who was standing against the zombie general, so he could only fight hard with his powerful body after the ape transformation. At this moment, the battle came to an end, but he was covered in scars. After he came back, Bai Yu naturally stepped forward to help him heal. The magic hand rejuvenation was activated, and the scars on Sun Wu's body disappeared, but Bai Yu's spiritual power was drawn in half. Hey, the bragging just now was a bit fierce. These guys fight like hell. If you keep fighting like this, Bai Yu's spiritual power may not be enough. What's more, their bodies are not only wounded, but also poisonous, which is the corpse poison floating from the zombie soldiers. The corpse poison is not very strong, but the level is not low, and everyone has been poisoned to varying degrees. Bai Yu has to detoxify them one by one. Although the consumption of spiritual power is very large, the power that can be transformed is also sufficient. Otherwise, when Sun Wu came back, it was really miserable, and there was still a big guy on Xiaoqian's side who couldn't handle it. Bai Yu would have to find a place where no one was around to have fun secretly for a while. After a brief recovery, everyone rejoined the battle. The strategy for killing the zombie general is similar to that of killing the skeleton general. You need to make him lose his mobility first. But the intelligence of the zombie war horse is higher. Just pulling down the zombie general is not enough. The war horse will take the initiative to join him. Therefore, they need to kill the horse first, and then deal with the general. As the saying goes, when you shoot a man, you shoot the horse first, and when you capture a thief, you capture the king first. After recovering, everyone in the team rushed towards the zombie general who was chasing Xiaoqian. The rising stone pillars were avoided by the zombie general, the oncoming fireball was scattered by the zombie general's spear, and the frozen ground was cracked by the horse's hooves. It seems that none of their methods of restricting zombie generals work. Tangled with thorns. However, just as the zombie general rushed in front of Xiaoqian with an invincible posture, a vine covered with thorns broke through the ground and entangled the horse's four hooves. The forward momentum of the horse stopped, and the inertia caused it to fall to the ground, and the zombie general on the horse also fell headfirst. Xiaoqian, who had been on the run, had already stopped and waited there. The shield in his hand had been raised, and there was an extra pair of gloves in his other hand. The shield and the glove, Bai Yu didn't know what combination this was. Perhaps the glove was Xiaoqian's real weapon, and the shield was only used temporarily. Bang! Xiaoqian seemed to have anticipated this situation in advance. The zombie general's body was slapped by the shield Xiaoqian raised, and then, a red fist slammed fiercely on his face. There was a clear sound of blows, and the helmet and visor of the zombie general were blown away, revealing that blue ferocious face. Unlike those zombie soldiers, the flesh and blood of the zombie general didn't rot badly, it just changed color and dried up. The loose teeth in the mouth flew out together with Xiao Qian's punch. Although it was just a seemingly ordinary punch, Bai Yu found that the damage caused by this calculation was more severe than that of Sun Wu's ape-like punch with a stick. After being punched, the zombie general fell heavily to the ground and was entangled by the extending vines. Afterwards, all the elements of the various skills were lost, and Xiao Qian and Sun Wu also surrounded him and beat him up. A few seconds later, the two jumped away in tacit agreement, leaving only the elemental system still attacking. Just when Bai Yu didn't understand why Xiao Qian and the two had to retreat, he heard a roar. Roar. After the zombie general finished roaring, the vines wrapped around his body were broken violently, and he swung the spear in his hand and danced wildly. But Xiao Qian and Sun Wu who were beside him had already retreated, and he didn't touch anything. Bai Yu discovered that Xiao Qian's attack was very organized, when to attack and when to retreat, everything seemed to be under their control. In fact, before Bai Yu came, they had opened up the mirror space of level 40 to 49 many times, and they knew exactly what moves these monsters and bosses would have. After these monsters and leaders are killed, they will be refreshed by the mysterious system, but they no longer have the memory of being killed, so they will only respond in the same way, and even fall into the trap designed by Xiao Qian and the others among. In the end, turned into experience. It's a pity, the leader in the mirror space doesn't have evolution beads. Looking at the zombie general who fell to the ground, Sun Wu shook his head regretfully. Be content, although I don't have evolution beads, but I have enough experience. An elemental system returns. The mirror space is characterized by high experience. In addition to killing monsters to gain experience, there are also experience rewards after customs clearance. Hearing this, Bai Yu nodded approvingly. This experience is really high. He entered after more than 20 levels, and his experience gain has been weakened to the extreme, but after these 2 levels, his level 18 experience bar has still increased a lot, and it is estimated that after clearing the level, it will be more than half. Take a break and get ready to go to the 3rd floor. Xiao Qian wiped the sweat from his forehead. Although he is strong, he faced the leader alone and restrained him for a few minutes. He was also the main force in the encirclement, and he had to observe the overall situation at any time and give instructions. This consumes a lot of physical and mental energy. As Bai Yu said, those who are in deep siege are not suitable for commanding. But in their team, only Xiao Qian is most familiar with this mirror image space, and he can only command it. The 3rd layer must be the most difficult layer in this mirror space. When they entered the 3rd floor, the scene changed again, as if going back in time, they returned to the battlefield before the army died. This is the most powerful period for this army. All the soldiers have complete combat strength and a well-organized military appearance. Looking from a distance, one can feel a sense of murder. How do you fight this? Bai Yu was stunned. This is an army, not the undead creature just now. It is obviously impossible to divide and break. In front of an army with strict military discipline, tricks don't work at all. Rush. Obviously, Xiao Qian and the others have already tried all the ways they could think of. There is no other way to do this level except rushing to the battle. Rush. Are you kidding me? Although there are not many people in this army, there are still hundreds of people in the army. I can't deal with it. Also, my healing technique must touch the target before it can be used. If any of you are injured, then I have to rush in to heal. Can you protect me? Bai Yu looked at Xiao Qian with disbelief on his face. 10 versus hundreds. When they are superhuman, it's not as exaggerated as you think. Although they are united together, their fighting power is stronger, but their individual strength has actually declined. Undead creatures don't feel pain. Once they start a war, they will never die. But these soldiers are living people, they will suffer pain, and their combat effectiveness will be greatly reduced if they are injured. Unlike those undead creatures, as long as they are alive, they can continue to fight. Xiao Qian said. Besides, our small number of people does not necessarily mean an absolute disadvantage. Don't forget, we have a small number of people and occupy a small space. The number of people who can attack us is limited. And we are in the enemy's formation, and their long-range attacks will be restricted. They are soldiers, but they are also human beings. They won't be like those thoughtless undead creatures, no matter whether they are their own people or not, they will slash at random with their knives. Get ready, we've cleared the level a few times anyway, so it's definitely okay to do this, just stay among us. Everyone follow me, form a circular defensive formation, protect the healer in the middle, charge. Ghost. During the charge, Xiao Qian released his first awakening skill. Only then did Bai Yu realize that the ghost skill is not a single skill, but a group skill. The number of ghosts that Xiao Qian can summon depends on his skill proficiency. With Xiao Qian's current strength, there is no problem with 10 ghosts. At the moment when the ghost possessed him, Bai Yu felt a slightly cold force covering the surface of his body, and his skin seemed to become even harder. The buff effect of the ghost is similar to the stone skin of the Earth system, but more powerful. Moreover, this is a skill that can improve the defense of the group. Xiao Qian's attribute is the underworld, that is, he can summon the creatures in the underworld to fight for him or generate benefits. Of course, whether the underworld really exists remains to be verified. In fact, there is a leveling area like hell, but this is generated by a mysterious system based on Chinese myths, and it is not a real hell. Surrounded by the crowd, Bai Yu rushed forward. When approaching those soldiers, the other party finally reacted. Royal. With a shout, all the soldiers raised their shields and faced them. Bai Yu sweats profusely. There are only 10 of us, do we want to make it the same as the confrontation between the two armies? Scatter. When they rushed to the front of the army formation, the voice came again, and the soldiers dispersed, surrounding 10 people in the center. Attack. These soldiers are obviously well trained. Apart from the voice of the commander, there were only the clash of armor and weapons and the sound of footsteps, and there was no noise at all. And after the attack word came out, these soldiers seemed to have opened some kind of shackles, and suddenly roared in unison. Kill. Soldiers start to charge. Boulder thrust. To deal with these soldiers, the most important thing is to disrupt their formation first, otherwise, let them rush over like this, there is really no need to fight. Fortunately, there were no archers among these soldiers. Otherwise, a round of volleys would be fired first, and the battle would almost be unnecessary. The huge stone pillars that suddenly appeared on the ground changed the soldiers' charging route, forcing them to take a detour. Freeze. The earth system blocked the way to charge, and the ice system exerted force again, making the ground extremely smooth, and the speed of the soldiers slowed down even further. Very good. Fire element. There is a soaring flame in the crowd. Xiao Qian looked at the battlefield. Although they have fought many times, the situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly. Maybe a small position of the soldiers will change the formation. Here, there is no one-size-fits-all style of play, only adapt to the situation. Okay. Pressing the hands of the fire department forward, a burst of flames rose from the ground. The soldiers who were enveloped in the range had no time to dodge, and were directly rushed into the air. The violent flame power burned them, screaming again and again. However, the cry didn't last long. Sky Raging Flame is the fourth awakening skill of this fire element, and its lethality is naturally not small. In just a few seconds, those screaming soldiers turned into fly ash. Wood element. Cages block the road. Between the huge stone pillars, there are still countless soldiers rushing forward. Xiao Qian commanded again. Wood department released his fourth awakening skill, Cage. However, the range covered by this cage is a bit large, and it is almost placed close to the edge of the stone pillar circle. From the outside, it was the cage that trapped the 10 of them inside. But from the inside, it was this cage that separated them from the people outside. Gold system. Strengthen the cage on 3 sides, let go of one side, and let them in. Following Xiao Qian's command, the gold element in the team raised his hand and shot out a golden light. Most of the cages woven by vines turned into metal, only one side was still vines. And these relatively fragile vines were about to burst under the soldiers, slashing with their knives. Why are you standing still? Hit me hard before they rush in. They have remote control, so if they don't take advantage of it now, when will it be? After a while, hand-to-hand combat will start, and the power of these elemental systems will not be fully exerted. All of a sudden, everyone unleashed their own powerful attacks. All kinds of attacks fell on the soldiers, but they fought to the death and never retreated. The cage was quickly cut a gap, and the soldiers swarmed. Superior. When the first soldier rushed in, Xiao Qian and Sun Wu went up to meet him. One-on-one, it's not that hard to kill these soldiers. But there were too many soldiers, and the charge never stopped. Even after death, the corpse is still pushed forward by the people behind. They can kill the soldiers in front of them, but they can't stop them from rushing into the cage. It's not so easy to make one man guard the gate and 10,000 men not open it. 1, 2, 3, more and more soldiers poured into the cage. Fierce. Xiao Qian activated the third awakening skill again. The fierce skill is Xiao Qian's sharper attack skill. Summons a fierce spirit into the body, temporarily increasing its attack power. This description is apt, especially the short word. With Xiao Qian's current ability, he can only last for 3 seconds. However, the attack power raised by the evil spirit is extremely powerful. At this time Xiao Qian had already put away his shield and replaced it with two-handed gloves. Because at this time, there is no need for him to resist, these soldiers are wise, they will choose the weakest point to launch a fierce attack, and will not stare at the target in front of them like those undead creatures. Xiao Qian, who activated his skills, swung his fists and crashed into the crowd of soldiers. Wherever he passed, flesh and blood flew everywhere. The attack power added by fierce is really strong. Xiao Qian was invincible in the crowd with just a pair of fists. Those fists could be said to be injured when rubbed, and died when touched. It's a pity that no matter how powerful the attack power is, it only lasts 3 seconds. During these 3 seconds, Xiao Qian relied on his own formidable strength to kill nearly 20 soldiers. 3 seconds later, falling rocks, hit me. Xiao Qian retreated, and the soldiers rushed into the cage again. After his words fell, a huge boulder the size of a house fell from the sky and smashed towards the opening of the cage. Nima, did you do it on purpose? When the sound of breaking wind came, Sun Wu fled from the breach in a rolling and crawling manner. Looking at where the boulder fell, it was likely that he and Sun Wu would be smashed to death together. Don't talk nonsense, be careful, I will sue you for defamation. The earth element said coldly. The boulder fell and smashed into the crowd of soldiers. A huge pothole was smashed out on the ground, and on the edge of the boulder, many limbs and arms could be seen, and there was blood everywhere. Although these soldiers are generated by a mysterious system, they also refer to human emotions and personalities. Although they are well trained, they are just ordinary people with stronger strength. If the two armies are facing each other, and the opponents are also soldiers like them, then they can really fight to the death without retreating. But now, they are facing supernatural forces. Xiao Qian and Sun Wu killed dozens of them in front, but they were not afraid. But as soon as the falling rock came out, it only killed a dozen or so soldiers who couldn't escape, but the blow to morale was huge. Don't stop. After the rock fell, a huge fireball hit it. Explosive bomb. Compared with Yan Yan's explosive bomb, this one is much bigger, the size of a millstone. Boom. The dark red fireball smashed into the crowd of soldiers. Apart from those who were killed on the spot, there were also many who were scorched by splashing flames. For a while, they screamed again and again. This explosive bomb was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, and the soldiers in this direction began to flee. Kill. Xiao Qian led the crowd to kill. If you want to clear the mirror space, you must kill every monster in it, and the setting of this mirror space is the same. Therefore, the soldiers fled, and they naturally went after them. Pursuit battles are naturally much easier to fight than encounter battles. That's probably what it means to beat a dog in the water. A group of people chased after the fleeing soldiers, all kinds of skills did not cost money, and soon nearly 100 soldiers were slaughtered. As for the remaining soldiers, it's easy to handle, the same method, split and break. After the soldiers cleaned up, they headed in the direction of the general. But Xiao Qian's expression became serious. This general is not easy to deal with. They have cleared the customs so many times, and every time he goes out with injuries. Where are you fools? How dare you break into our army formation? Astride a BMW, the general in heavy armor looked at everyone in the team with disdain. The living generals talk a lot more than those on the first 2 floors, at least they don't just call charge. However, Xiao Qian and the others didn't intend to play tricks with the general, they had to strike first. Eat me with a stick. Sun Wu, incarnate as a demon ape, leapt high, swinging a stick with the power to split mountains and rocks. Ha! Powerful. The general clamped the horse's belly, the horse's front hooves were raised high, and then they stomped down heavily. However, the general on horseback took advantage of the falling force to throw out the spear in his hand and collided with Sun Wu's stick. Boom! Sun Wu was sent flying by a spear and hit Bai Yu. Bai Yu couldn't dodge in time, and directly raised his hand to catch it. Then, the trapeze becomes two. After landing, Bai Yu rolled several times to relieve the force, so that he was not injured. But Sun Wu, who was kicked away from the front, spit out a mouthful of blood. Rejuvenation. Before the general's power dissipated too much, Bai Yu directly activated the healing technique. At this time, the power of treatment and transformation is the most. The instant recovery of the injury made Sun Wu stunned. If Jin Ming came back, the injury just now would have cost him several treatments. What surprised Sun Wu even more was that Bai Yu was bumped so hard by him, yet nothing happened, and he still had the time to heal him. It's outrageous. Of course, now is the time not to pay attention to this. On the other side, Xiao Qian has already fought with the general, and activated his fourth awakening skill, Shira. At this moment, Xiao Qian's body was full of black air, like an evil spirit walking out of hell. His pair of iron fists did not fear the sharpness of the spear in the general's hand at all. The battle between Xiao Qian and the general was very intense, and the others couldn't intervene for the time being, so they could only crazily stack their states on Xiao Qian. A leader-level general is not something that Xiao Qian can single out alone. They are waiting for an opportunity that can severely damage the general. And at this time, Xiao Qian needed to exchange for his injury. Xiao Qian fought while retreating, constantly using his flexible changes of direction to maintain the distance between him and the general. At this time, he had no gloves in his hand, and put on a shield again. After Shira possessed his body, his strength, speed, reaction and other attributes have been greatly improved, but he still dare not fight with the general who is riding a horse, faster than a straight line. Moreover, he also needs to use this method to lead the general to a specific position. Xiao Qian's figure kept changing positions, and the general on his horse chased after him. Just when Bai Yu was guessing how long this chase would last, Sun Wu suddenly rushed out, but not in the direction where Xiao Qian was. What is he doing? Bai Yu was puzzled. You'll know later. A certain element is the answer. After Sun Wu left, Xiao Qian no longer ran around, but kept moving and dodging in a small area. Bai Yu knew that perhaps the good show was about to begin. Prepare, Xiao Qian suddenly shouted, and then looked in the direction Sun Wu left. At this time, Sun Wu had already arrived in front of a huge bed crossbow. After the beast turned into a demonic ape, he laboriously manipulated the bed crossbow. After finishing the preparations, he gave Xiao Qian an okay gesture. After Xiao Qian received Sun Wu's signal, the black energy all over his body subsided, replaced by a faint silver glow. Fifth awakening skill, Ghost General. Suppress. It is not only Xiao Qian's body that has the silver light, but his eyes are also shining with silver light. But the general who was looking at him seemed to have received some kind of mental shock, and he was stupefied for a short time. And in this short moment, boom, the bed crossbow made a loud noise, and a thick arrow shot towards the general. The speed of the arrow was extremely fast, and it arrived in an instant. Although the general was only in a daze for a short time, at this moment, the arrow had already crossed a distance of tens of meters and arrived at his side. Just when the general regained consciousness and stabbed Xiao Qian with his spear, the arrow sent him flying more than 10 meters away from the horse with a strong impact. Is it okay? It was the first time for Bai Yu to see their cooperation. Looking at the arrow that was thicker than the spear in the general's hand, Bai Yu felt that the general must be doomed. It's not over yet. However, the elemental system around him told him that this is not over yet. Sure enough, Bai Yu saw that the general was struggling to get up, and a huge arrow pierced through his chest. Although it caused him great damage, he was not killed immediately because of his strong physique. A wounded beast will fight to the death, and the general is no exception. Although the serious injury made him lose part of his fighting power, it also aroused his vigor. Now, he plans to take this despicable kid in front of him to hell together. Battle the sky. With a shout of anger, the general raised his spear high, and with an arrow piercing through his chest, he charged at Xiao Qian. As for Xiao Qian, after going through a fierce battle, he finally activated the fifth awakening skill, which is already at the end of his battle. Ghost. Xiao Qianqiang cheered up, and used his last spiritual power to activate the first awakening technique to improve his defense. At the same time, he raised the shield in his hand. Clang! As soon as the shield was raised, it was knocked aside by the spear. After knocking the shield away, the spear stabbed forward. Xiao Qian's pupils shrank suddenly, and his expression became unnatural. This time, shouldn't it be swept away? Xiao Qian looked at the general in front of him who suddenly didn't follow the routine, and shrank back with all his strength. However, how could the speed of his retreat be comparable to the speed of the weapon stabbing? Puff! The spear pierced through the chest, and Xiao Qian, who was in pain, reached out and grabbed the end of the arrow on the general's chest. The general was in pain, and the spear in his hand stabbed harder. The two tortured each other, and neither of them would let go. Save people. Seeing that the development of things exceeded expectations, everyone panicked. Sun Wu rushed out from behind the crossbow on the bed, rushing towards Xiao Qian. It's a pity that he was too far away, and it was too late to rescue him in time. And here is a bunch of elemental systems, with poor physical fitness, and it is too late to save them. Even if you rush over, maybe you won't be saved, and you have to put yourself in. Most of their attacks are ranged, and will envelop Xiao Qian as well. Moreover, their attacks can't cause too much damage to the general, but will irritate him instead. They didn't shoot at the beginning of the battle because they were afraid of attracting the general's attention. According to the normal situation, although Xiao Qian would be injured by the general's fury, his life would not be in danger. Next, it's time for these elemental systems to play. In the face of a seriously injured general, they can grind him to death. But now, the general and Xiao Qian are entangled together, they have no way to do it. Hey, what are you doing? Before the elements department could decide what to do, they found a person rushing out beside them. Taking a closer look, it was Bai Yu. How is he so fast? Although he was a little ashamed of his hesitation, some people found that the speed at which Bai Yu rushed out was a bit too unusual. The physique of the healing system is actually no different from those of the elemental systems. Bai Yu doesn't have time to worry about so much. Although he had only known Xiao Qian for less than an hour, he felt that this person was very reliable to him, and he couldn't bear to see him die like this. For this reason, even if I expose some of my secrets, I will not hesitate. Because he had to be ready to attack at any time, the element system was not very far from Xiao Qian's position. Bai Yu sprinted with all his strength, and it only took 2 or 3 seconds to get behind Xiao Qian. Afterwards, Bai Yu grabbed Xiao Qian's collar and pulled him over. The spear that passed through the chest was pulled out with blood, and the blood splashed like a dancing red satin. Although Xiao Qian looked miserable, Bai Yu didn't dare to activate the healing technique at this time. Standing in front of the general for treatment, people only need to raise their hands, and both of them will die. Bai Yu dragged Xiao Qian and ran far away before stopping, but here, Sun Wu had already arrived, fighting with the general. The elements also started to attack. Xiao Qian's mission has been completed, the rest is their job. The arrow stuck in the chest made the general's movements slow, and Sun Wu could restrain him by himself. His main task is not to kill, but to make the general have no time to pay attention to the elemental system in the distance. On the other side, Bai Yu put Xiao Qian on the ground and activated the healing technique. In just an instant, Bai Yu's spiritual power bottomed out. Xiao Qian's injury was too severe, almost half of his foot had already stepped into the gate of hell. This kind of treatment to steal life from the hands of Hades is very spiritually consuming. Bai Yu used less than 1/5 of his spiritual power to heal Sun Wu from the wound. He vomited blood from the beating, and this meeting has already fully recovered. But treating Xiao Qian directly drained all the spiritual power in his body. With just one healing skill, Bai Yu was so tired that he slumped on the ground and began to meditate to recover his spiritual power. And after Xiao Qian walked back and forth in the ghost gate, his face was also slightly pale, and he was afraid for a while. Just a moment ago, he was gone by just a little bit. With similar injuries, Xiao Qian is already out of danger, but the general is worse. He was already at the end of his strength, but was stopped by Sun Wu, unable to approach the elemental system. He wanted to kill Sun Wu, but this boy was as nimble as a monkey. He didn't fight him head-on at all, just kept dodging. But when he was about to abandon Sun Wu to deal with those annoying elemental elements, Sun Wu rushed up again and knocked on the arrow stuck in his body. That sour feeling made his heart tremble in pain. In the end, the general fell to the ground unwillingly under the torture of the crowd. When the general fell, the mirror space of level 40 to 49 of the glazed tower was cleared, and the reward experience points were obtained, and the group exited the glazed tower. Hey, this trip looks a lot easier. As soon as she came out, Zhang Feifei's voice sounded. They had seen Xiaoqian's panic when he came out of the glazed pagoda. Their team combination can only rely on Xiaoqian to withstand the leader. Hey, don't mention it. Although it seemed to be fine, Xiaoqian still has lingering fears. However, the careful Liu Beibei found that there was a big hole in Xiaoqian's clothes on the chest and back, and there were bloodstains on it. It's not easy for them to travel this time. An accident? Liu Beibei asked. Hey, I almost died inside. Otherwise, with Bai Yu, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to see me. Xiaoqian shook his head. Bai Yu. Those who were not on the scene naturally couldn't imagine how useful a person who is not even at level 20 can play. I don't know, but in short, he is very powerful. Xiaoqian's attention was not on Bai Yu's side at the time, and the others had no chance to explain to him for the time being, so he didn't know how Bai Yu saved him. Very powerful. How powerful? Let my sister see it. A new trip, with. Zhang Feifei walked around Bai Yu twice curiously, except that he was a little weak, but didn't see how powerful he was. Seeing is better than hearing 100 times, so go in and see how powerful it is. Zhang Feifei took Bai Yu away. Liu Beibei was afraid that something would happen to them, so she led the team and followed them. The same mirror space, the same monsters and scenes. After experiencing the feeling of going through the space door once, Bai Yu didn't feel so uncomfortable anymore. When the team arrived, they began to clean up the mobs. Liu Beibei's team composition and fighting style are quite different from those led by Xiaoqian. But this doesn't have much to do with Bai Yu. As soon as he heals, he hangs around first. Besides, his spiritual power has not fully recovered, and now he has to recover his spiritual power to deal with various accidents. The team led by Liu Beibei has more melee combat, so the fights are naturally different. For the skeleton soldiers, Xiaoqian lured monsters by himself, gathered them together, and then output the elemental system. But Liu Beibei's team was a group of people rushing out to attract monsters. Invite so many. How can you kill them? Bai Yu couldn't help but be speechless when he saw 7 people rushing out, each of whom attracted a lot of skeleton soldiers. TCH, it's rare to see more strange, just take care of it. Zhang Feifei smiled triumphantly. Oh, then I chatted and watched my sister perform. Bai Yu said. Well, Zhang Feifei is too embarrassed to take the conversation. The reason is simple, the main output of this team is not her. Her ability doesn't have much effect on the first 2 floors. On the first 2 floors, she basically played soy sauce, and it was only on the 3rd floor that she played her best. While the 2 of them were chatting, the 7 had attracted a lot of skeleton soldiers and brought them together. Second awakening skill, Lux. Liu Beibei's pleasant voice sounded from one side, and then, a mighty phantom appeared in the sky, and then punched it down. The wrestler's body is weak, but this huge fist is extremely solid. This punch blasted into the group of skeleton soldiers, and immediately smashed the skeleton soldiers into a pile of broken bones, and the remaining 3 or 5 were also smashed into bone sticks by several melee blows. Just looking at this part of killing monsters, Liu Beibei's team seems to be much more efficient than Xiaoqian's team. Especially Liu Beibei's own attack power is simply outmatched by those elemental systems. So fierce. This is the first time Bai Yu has seen such a high lethality ability. Then you think, so far, there is only such a person with the Tiangong attribute in the whole country, and it is estimated that the one who can compete with Beibei is Xiaochen's hell. Zhang Feifei said from the side. Heavenly Palace, hell. Xiaoqian is so fierce. Bai Yu had just finished playing the mirror space with Xiaoqian, and watched Xiaoqian's performance the whole time. He felt that compared to Liu Beibei, Xiaoqian seemed to be a little bit worse. Don't underestimate him, their team cleared the mirror space faster than ours. Furthermore, his teammates also limited his performance to a certain extent. If the 2 were to fight each other, Beibei would not be Xiaoqian's opponent. Although Zhang Feifei said she was powerful, but Xiaoqian was really powerful, she had to admit it. Hearing this, Bai Yu thought about their process of clearing the level again. It can be said that Xiao Qian almost penetrated the entire mirror space with his own strength, and the other teammates were just icing on the cake. Have they ever fought? Bai Yu was a little curious about this question. Of course they fought. When they first entered university, both of them were the pride of heaven, and each had a rare ability in 100 years. Naturally, they were very proud, and then they fought. However, Xiao Qian's ability is more suitable for heads up, so he won that time. But later on, their relationship got better and better. Zhang Feifei said, "Are they a couple?" Bai Yu suddenly had some gossip. "No, it should be the feeling of heroes cherishing heroes." Zhang Feifei shook her head. "Both of them are senior students, and they should be the two strongest people in the school. Xiao Qian's ability is more changeable, and he can deal with many complicated situations, so let him go abroad to challenge this time. Beibei's ability is more aggressive, but she relies more on the support of her teammates, so this time she stays on the school's side and guards the house. Stay with them for a while, and you will understand their abilities." Zhang Feifei was like a commentator, explaining these things to Bai Yu, and the two followed behind the team and pushed them all the way. "What about you? I'm a healer. It's normal to make soy sauce. Why do you also make soy sauce with me?" Seeing others fighting in the front, Zhang Feifei seemed to have nothing to do with herself, and kept chatting with herself in the back. Bai Yu couldn't help asking curiously, "I don't want to either, but my ability doesn't work against these undead creatures. I'm also very annoying, you know." Zhang Feifei pouted to express her dissatisfaction. With her character, if these skeleton soldiers hadn't been able to fight well, she would have rushed to fight hand to hand. "What ability do you have?" Bai Yu is curious, is their ability to pick opponents. "Psychic, these undead creatures don't even have thoughts, how can I attack their spirit?" Zhang Feifei kicked a stone and said angrily, "She can only watch other people fight, but she can't participate in it herself, so it is very tormenting." Spiritual department, another ability that Bai Yu had never seen before. The two were like outsiders, chatting while following the team, the battle had nothing to do with them. That is to say, occasionally when someone is accidentally injured, they will come over to let Bai Yu treat him. And this is just a touch, and it doesn't delay the chat at all. Stop and Go finally arrived at General Skeleton. Although the two teams played differently, the strategy was still the same. First, the skeleton general's ability to move was abolished. A skeleton general without the ability to move is a living target. All right, in fact, it wasn't even a living target, because he was already dead. Liu Beibei's Heavenly Palace attribute seems to have a natural suppression when dealing with such undead creatures, and her skills are extremely powerful. General Skeleton is a leader-level monster of over 40 levels, but he was beaten into bone powder within a few minutes in her hands. Continue. The first floor ended, the team didn't stop, and set off for the second one. The second zombie soldier is relatively more troublesome. However, this is for those who attract monsters. When they are attracting monsters, they must not only pay attention to avoiding attacks, but also be careful of corpse poison. And Liu Beibei, who is the output, still has no pressure. The second layer is almost the same as the first layer. 8 people who were fighting in full swing, and 2 people who watched the excitement, pushed all the way to the finish line. Zombie generals are harder to deal with than skeleton generals. After all, apart from having a higher level, this guy also has stronger attributes. However, to Liu Beibei, this was nothing but floating clouds. As long as the front row could control it, she didn't need to use full firepower to kill the zombie general. However, they still paid a small price when they contained the zombie general. It has to be said that the zombie general is quite strong. Under the joint restraint of the 7 close combatants and Liu Beibei's strong firepower, one of them was still injured. However, his achievements are just that. Liu Beibei's powerful output ability does not give him much room to play. And this time, Bai Yu saw Liu Beibei's new skill, Tianbing. Perhaps compared to Hercules, heavenly soldiers are not as powerful, but as the third awakening skill, it is obviously stronger. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.